Hey, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. And with that, I would ask Councillor Cloutier if you wouldn't mind reading the land acknowledgement, please. And that with a little help from Councillor Clark, that would be very helpful. He's always there to help.
Been a while since I've been here. I would respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg under the terms of the Robinson Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take actions toward real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cloutier. So with that, I'm moving to the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the council meeting agenda dated May 27th, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we are going to agenda item number 5, which is the start of our muzzle order appeal hearing. And this is a first for our council. I think it's the first for me in the entire time I've been on council. So if I make a mistake, you have to bear with me. But there is a procedure here. So I'll read the script that I've been given. We will now move into the muzzle order appeal hearing portion of the agenda. The procedure of the appeal hearing will be as follows. The town's bylaw enforcement officer will provide a report outlining a background of events. The owner will then have an opportunity to provide their comments. The witness will then have an opportunity to provide their comments. Before comments are received from the owner and witness, they shall provide their name for the record. After each party is heard, council may ask questions. After council has finished asking questions, the party shall leave the council table. Council will then consider the order and render a decision. I now invite the bylaw enforcement officer, Cruson, to outline report development -2024-52. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm here as part of a appeal of a muzzle order. So just to highlight my report, on February 21st, 2022, at approximately 3:50 p.m., a complaint was received in regards to a individual is walking her Cavalier King Charles Spaniel and also a Bichon Frise on Grandview Hilltop Drive on the road parking lot area. She passed by a unit, and as she was passing by, the Husky and Golden Retriever cross dog exited its unit where it resided with its owner. The dog was on leash, and the dog owner was carrying a motorized scooter in her other hand. When the Husky Golden Retriever cross saw the complainant walking by with her two dogs, it lunged towards the complainant, ultimately pulling the dog owner down, and the dog broke loose from her hand. The Husky and Golden Retriever proceeded down the stairs to the front of into the parking lot where the complainant was. It initially went after the Bichon Frise. The complainant was able to separate the Husky Golden Retriever from the Bichon Frise, and then the Husky Golden Retriever ultimately turned on the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, causing 6 puncture wounds to the Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. The complainant did try to kick at the dog to separate. As part of separating the dog, she did fall and obtain some injuries. As part of the investigation, on November 1st, I concluded the investigation and issued a muzzle order to the dog owner, being Ali Kittner, for the dog for when the dog is outside of the unit on Grandview Hilltop Drive. Yeah, so essentially the muzzle order was in effect as soon as the dog left its unit at the address. And that's concludes kind of.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments from council of Inspector Crusoe? Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Corey, just a question, was the complainant, was there any bite of the complainant? The dog didn't bite the complainant, did it just bit the dogs, the other dogs?
Yeah, through your worship. There was no bite to the complainant. It was just to the one dog.
The one dog.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions of Officer? Yes, Councillor Cluche.
I don't know if you can answer this, were the dogs known to each other before? Like, they lived in the same, but they seen each other, or was this the first time that the three dogs had run into each other?
Through your worship, I believe they would have seen each other. I don't know if they had a previous interaction or anything like that, but they definitely did. The complainant does live past the dog owner, so just as actually in the property normally, they would have come across the unit at least. I'm assuming the dog as well.
Okay. All right, I don't see any other questions at this point. We might. So at this point, I would now invite the owner to provide their comments. Welcome. Come on. Welcome. You have to press the button there just to, yep, just right in the center. Yep,
Okay, I'm on.
you're on, you're on.
Good evening, Mayor Elcock and council, and thanks to staff. Thanks for the opportunity to discuss this matter. The owner of the dog in question is actually my daughter's dog, Allison Kittner. I'm Val Kittner. She has moved away to Australia, and I am now caring for Nova. Clarification and background, I realized the accident happened. Nova was just 1 year old and still considered a puppy. I take this matter very seriously as I love this dog. However, it is important that I clarify the description of the documents provided have a few discrepancies. Firstly, please note complainant's dog was not taken to the vet until 4 days after the incident happened on October the 21st. The vet bill was dated October the 25th. This is my first time seeing this vet bill that is contained in the staff report. I find it strange there are no cost charges shown on the one in the report. The bill I received was different, which stated professional services supplied and mentions of vaccines. There was a handwritten sticky note attached on the one I received from Greg Evans, who is the property manager at Grandview, to pay the amount with cash by October the 31st. Coincidentally, the muzzle order was placed on Nova November 1st because it was not paid. And this is the one, the vet bill I received, not the one that's attached in the staff report. In the staff report, under summary of events, it says 6 puncture wounds were shown. The vet bill supplied says 3 superficial puncture wounds, and no stitches were needed, and there was no swelling. It is important to note that the word is superficial. Her photos that were supplied to staff shows the same photo twice to look like there were 6 puncture wounds, which is not the case here. Also note that her 2 aggressive dogs were barking their heads off at Nova at the time of the incident. Nova might have felt threatened and a bit rambunctious, as most puppies are. Or maybe she was just playing, as sometimes dogs do get carried away. Regarding the bylaw 2021-7 for the control and licensing of dogs, I'd like to point out that this is one complaint against Nova. An isolated accident and a muzzle order was applied by staff to a puppy. 3.6 section says the owner of the dog is entitled to a hearing by council or a committee thereof or the animal control officer of the municipality, and upon examining all facts, the dog may be exempted from muzzling or the conditions of muzzling will continue to apply. So in fact, the animal control officer has the right to remove it. Nonetheless, we are here today under this section. 3.1 states that animal control officer may issue an order. The issuing officer has the flexibility to issue or not issue the order. This suggests that there should be an opportunity to provide my perspective to the contrary. To me, the muzzle order is extremely harsh as it applies indefinitely and anywhere in the town of Huntsville, including 30 feet from my door to my vehicle and sitting on my deck, including being with friends who love the dog. This hearing may have been avoided if I had been allowed an opportunity to provide my side. Section 3.2 states that an order remains in effect until the dog does not present a risk to public. On this note, a petition has been presented with 40 names that attest to the fact that Nova does not present a risk to public safety. I could have got many more names, but I had already submitted the petition to staff, thinking my deputation was going to be in April originally. It is important to note that these folks know Nova, and most of these people have dogs. One name that stands out is Holly Nunn Marco, who is the manager at the Huntsville Bracebridge Animal Hospital, attesting that there is no harm to public safety. While not on the petition, I have recently had taken Nova to the vet, and Dr. Victoria Liu indicated that she was lovely and a very, very well-behaved dog. Additionally, Leslie Hutchison, who is on the petition, lives at Grandview, identified that her 6 grandchildren, who are ages 3 to 14 years old, have enjoyed playing with Nova with no issues. The late John Lacey provided comments, quote, "I looked after Nova for 10 days and nights. I have had big dogs over the past number of years. Nova is not an aggressive dog. She is in fact your typical young pet. She is very lovable and obedient. To have her labeled as an aggressive dog is an injustice." Lanny Dennis, who is here today, has provided comments as well on the petition. I've had the pleasure of knowing Nova for the past year. She and my dog Ivy play together on a daily basis. Nova is not aggressive and in fact is the exact opposite. She has had on many occasions been quite submissive. She and Ivy really enjoy each other's companies and are very good companions. To have this dog wear a muzzle is not required and is an injustice. She is not an aggressive and she's a friendly, lovable dog. Moreover, Angie Paulson, who has signed the petition, we spent the weekend together at a friend's home where her Shih Tzu, Chloe, who Nova had met for the first time on the weekend, got along with no issues. The muzzle order actually creates more skepticism from people approaching Nova. People fear her because the muzzle creates a scary look for her, for an animal. And conversely, Nova is humiliated when she's wearing it. And just remember that she's never bit a person. Section 3.3 indicates that the dog can be located in the house or in an outside pen. I want to point out that I live in a condo with no yard. So other than being in the house, Nova must have a muzzle on. The bylaw does not contemplate condo situations, which makes the muzzle order even more restrictive. Thank goodness there is no elevator. This means walks, of course, with a muzzle. Nova cannot properly breathe or swim with it on. And just so you can see what a muzzle looks like, this is what she wears every time I take her out the door. In conclusion, in consideration of these facts, please agree to remove this muzzle order. I think the order is extremely onerous, unjust, and unfair. This muzzle is inhumane, archaic, and almost medieval. If every time there was an incident where a dog bites another dog here in Huntsville, there would be a lot of dogs wearing muzzles around town, and I don't see any. Please let Nova enjoy the normal life of a dog. She is 3 years old and will likely live till 10. So the years are marching on. She already has lost about 2 years of a normal dog's life. Even those people who are imprisoned are allowed a second chance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Are there any questions at this point regarding this? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. I'm just curious, has the dog had any formal training with a professional dog trainer?
No, but I trained her, and my daughter's trained her. I mean, she walks on a leash great. And
So, follow up.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, would you be opposed to actually going through a process of having a professional trainer evaluate the dog, maybe do the training and bring back something to the council saying whether the dog, how the professional trainer feels, whether that dog is aggressive or not. Like, I appreciate all the people who signed the petition on that, and I understand them playing with dogs, and I have a dog too. I understand completely, but it's hard for council to make that decision without having something that's more legit, more concrete.
I don't think a personal trainer would know Nova any better than all these people that signed my petition and have spent weekends with me and my dog around town.
If I may follow up on that, though, and I totally understand what you're saying, but from a perspective through this lens, I certainly will speak for myself. I'm not sure. I have dogs, and I love dogs. I don't know if I have the expertise, whereas a trainer, that's what they do. So if you had support from a trainer to say, I've trained this dog, you know, your friends who love the dog, that's not what they do, right? So I'm just curious if that is something that you'd consider.
I would consider it, yeah.
I apologize, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah,
I just
no,
wanted
that's-
to pick up. I thought that was an interesting point. So,
Yeah.
yes, I'm not sure which one of you two. I'm going to Councillor Clark first and followed by Councillor Cluche.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock, and thanks for your presentation. I just had a question about the petition itself. Of course, the copies we have, the addresses are all blacked out, I imagine, due to privacy reasons. So how many people on the petition are neighbors at your units? That's what I'm curious about that. I understand that you've got a lot of people that have signed it. Just wondering how many of them are neighbors at your Grandview condo.
I'd say probably 10 or 15 of them. It could be more. I'd have to actually look at that. But yeah, I think 10, 15 people at least. And, you know, now they know, obviously Nova's a nice dog. They, you know, they pat her and stuff. And she's got the muzzle on, and I mean, obviously the dog hates it. It humiliates her. But
Through you, Chair. Going back to Deputy Mayor's comment about the trainer or counseling or whatever, I mean, you alluded to prisoners get out, but they also get counseled while they're in jail too, so that they can get out and be responsible citizens when they do come out. I had dogs my whole life until the last few years, had two of them, big dogs all the time, and not going against dogs here in no mean, but I think the best thing for all of us, we're not dog trainers and you're not a dog trainer, and is that gets evaluated by somebody that is a professional and come back to us, because it's pretty hard for us to make a decision on something like this when we don't have the professional. And usually anything that we do make comments on at this table are that we have backup for it, not just for personal reasons.
so when you say a professional, do you mean like you know, I've seen two veterinarians that say she's a lovely dog.
Well, I mean, as far as the veterinarians work on the more medical side, I think if we had more of a person that trains dogs
Okay.
and that can come back to us, I
understood.
think we'd feel a lot more comfortable
Okay.
making a decision on this if it came to us in that mode.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I gotta say, this is probably one of the toughest ones I've ever had to look at. I have two beautiful big dogs, and when they were puppies, they weren't the best, you know, and they've definitely improved. And to have to muzzle my dogs would really feel unfair. But I've also had a good friend of mine's dog who, when I went to their house, he would let it sit on my lap, and I would sign a petition for that dog all day. He would lick me in the face. We'd watch hockey together, and shortly after that, another good friend of mine put her hand out and got bitten right through the hand with 3 teeth, and the dog ended up having to be put down. So the reason I'm hesitating is because I don't have the expertise. I have a hard time going against staff on this, simply because if we did remove the muzzle situation, and something were to happen, I believe the pet owner and the dog should not be judged by one incident here. It's not a situation of an irresponsible pet owner at all. It was a dog that got away from an owner, and the dog maybe had his worst day ever that day. But if we lift the ban and something worse happens, like happened that day to my friend, from a dog that you wouldn't dream in a million years would touch someone, I'd have a really tough time sleeping at night if that were to happen. So that's really where I'm having a tough time. Your dog is beautiful, and I bet you 99% chance it'll never do anything bad ever again. But for me to make that decision, I'm really having a tough time. So anyway.
Appreciate that comment, which speaks to the idea. I think what we're hearing is none of us feel like we're in the position. We all are dog owners, and this is not certainly our area of expertise.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the comments about the training, because then at least we have someone who, to Councillor Cloutier's point, we are presented with background information and here are the reasons, here's the rationale. And that usually is very helpful for us. Councillor Renwick, no, you didn't have your hand up. Okay, I think. All right, so thank you. At this point, we are going to invite the witness to speak. I believe, and come forward. That would be great. Provide comments. That's no worries. If you can't, you see Councillor Morrison's getting up out of a seat right away.
Push that.
Yes, pretty straightforward. I know.
Hi
Although
there.
it's amazing, we often forget and we sort of have to remind
know.
ourselves. I know.
Mel, thank you very much, Mayor and councillors. I'm nervous, so please be patient with me. The only people involved were Ali and myself, plus the dogs. There were no witnesses present at this incident on October 21st, 2022. It was the second bite from this dog. The dog in question bit my neighbor's dog, which is on file as well, a few weeks before my incident. I have a question. Why wasn't the owner charged under DOLA, which is Dog Owners Liability Act, but instead under the Municipal Act for the town of Huntsville? Ali didn't have control of her dog, which was on a leash, but broke free and attacked my dogs, who were leashed. My one dog got away. Then the dog attacked my other dog, who received 6 puncture wounds on her head and neck. I kicked the dog in the neck, and this dog turned on me and knocked me down, causing injuries to my hip, shoulder, and elbow. Ali has moved to Australia and left the dog. This dog is vicious, and Val Kidner, who is Ali's mother, now has the dog. They don't seem to understand the severity of this issue, and many times they walk the dog to their vehicle without a muzzle on. Val Kidner, Ali's mother, is very quick to blame me and not take responsibility of this muzzle order, and this dog is a liability beyond her capability and is showing that she doesn't care. When I leave my condo, I'm on edge because of this dog, and Val is verbally abusive to me, and it's all my fault. This incident happened and Val was never there. Just hearsay from her daughter. The last incident was on February 21, 2024. The dog was outside of the unit without a leash or muzzle on. This dog is a husky mix, and they have high prey drive. My job before I moved up to Huntsville, I worked for the City of Toronto in animal services. I know this bylaw inside and out. They have a high prey drive for smaller animals and things that run and move. First one reported bite by Helen von Besser, dog by the name of Mr. Muggs, on the back of his neck above his collar. I don't know why this first bite incident was not included in the risk management. This must be taken into consideration, and it's not the first offense for this dog. Dog owner's liability, which is provincial legislation to use when this happens, it has a lot more teeth than municipal bylaws, and it should be used more often. This act covers any dog, no matter the breed. Even when this dog has a muzzle on, she could inflict harm and bite to people or pets, small dogs, squirrels, small children. This is what this breed does. They chase. It's the characteristic of this breed, cross husky mix. I have an outstanding bill of $210, which to date has never been paid, which Greg Evans, our property manager, gave to them back in October of 2022. Val is a bully. She tries to intimidate me and not responsible to own this dog. In closing, can I please request that the muzzle order for this dog stay in place? I have residual fear for myself, my dogs, and the public. And that's
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there any questions or comments from council with respect to this deputation? Yes, Councillor Morrison.
I guess just the one question, seems to be a discrepancy on the amount of puncture bites. We were told it was just 3, and you're mentioning it is actually 6. Do we have any,
Do I have proof?
well, yeah, I wonder, I mean, it's not that it really is the decision maker, but I just want to know.
That report.
Okay.
Is that vet report in that same vet
I
report?
Because I think
Never
it
did.
mentions, I think it mentions 6 in the report,
It
but
did say 6.
I respect the
The owner did.
owners
Yeah.
mentioning that maybe there was only 3 or, I don't know.
If this is different from what's in our report, maybe that,
So what you're saying is what's in the report is accurate?
Pardon?
What you're saying is what was in the report you gave us is accurate? Where it says 6, it says 6 in the
Is
report.
it accurate what you provided our bylaw officer? Is that the information, everything you have?
Yes, I gave him a copy of the vet stuff.
Okay. So perhaps I could ask our officer if you could clarify that for us. That would be great. Are there any other questions for the witness before Corey responds? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour. Apparently, it's 3 in the report.
She changed it.
No, excuse me. So Deputy Mayor Armour, could you?
Thanks for coming. I'm curious, had your dogs and her dog ever had any interaction prior to this event? So when
No,
well, so when she was out walking her dog, you guys just never had,
no, they've never met.
never met. When the incident occurred, was there any aggression from your dog to their dog prior to, or did it just happen instantly? Like did your dogs bark towards her dog and
No, no, there was no barking. There is barking now because of the incident.
Okay. All right. I'm going to Councillor Cluche, followed by Councillor Fitzgerald.
Through you, Chair. Where was, I haven't seen anywhere in here where there was an agreement of her, of the Ms. Kittner paying the vet bill? And, or do we have to make a decision on that also? Like, this one, just the vet bill, I'm just worried about it. It keeps coming up, but I don't see anywhere in here where there's an agreement that they were supposed to pay the vet bill, that's all.
If I may, you know what, Councillor Cluche, while I understand why you're going there, it really isn't the issue before us around that.
Okay,
I
well, that's,
kind of, I know. I think it speaks to, again,
yeah.
the level of detail that
Yeah,
we're kind of getting into.
Okay.
And thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, just to comment, that's a civil matter. It has nothing to do around
Right.
this table.
Right.
I'm curious to ask Mr. Cruson, how many muzzle orders do we have outstanding in Huntsville at this given moment?
Through your worship, I'm not quite sure the exact number. I could venture a guess of 7 or 8. It's not a huge volume, but there's a number out there. Some of them do go as far as the Dog Owner Liability Act or DOLA, which that's a provincial muzzle order. It's not the case in this situation, but
Thank you. I look forward to you enlightening us about this Dog Owner Liability Act at some point in the near future.
Did we clarify the question from Councillor Morrison with respect to the marks? We did?
It appears that it is 3 according to the report.
It is 3.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And
Mayor, may I say something? I'm
last,
sorry.
last comment, yeah.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Oh, that's okay. I'd say you
can
can,
say-
yes, you may, absolutely.
I had a meeting, I was under the assumption that when the muzzle order was issued, that it was under DOLA,
No.
which is the Dog Owners Liability Act.
Right,
And I had a meeting with Corey, and that's when I found out that it wasn't, because in the act itself, it says that they're responsible for the vet bills. And I didn't know that.
I see, okay. Appreciate that. Okay,
It says liability of the owner is
Okay.
stated right there.
thank you. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can I ask for Mr. Cruzen, a question for Mr. Cruzen? Not sure, this is new for us, so I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Mr. Cruzen, the question I have, and obviously something I'm concerned about, is if we do, even going down the road of getting a professional opinion and lift a muzzle ban, if something were to happen, if a child got bit or another dog got bit, are we liable as a town for lifting the muzzle ban?
Through your worship, we did reach out to through our risk and asset coordinator, Alicia. She reached out to PFL, our insurance. They suggested about not, or they're in favor of not lifting the muzzle order, just on more of a past occurrence where that same situation had occurred where muzzle order was in effect, it was lifted. I think it was a paper boy went to go to the door and dog came out and bit him and caused quite a bit of damage. The municipality was essentially had a lawsuit against them for lifting that muzzle order.
Follow up?
And so, quick follow-up, thank you for that, because that's my concern. And I guess a follow-up to that, of the muzzle orders that we have had, have there ever been any, and if so, how many have been lifted?
The only one that I'm aware of that was lifted was quite a few years ago, 2009, 2010. Involved 2 huskies and a dachshund. After that was lifted, I'm not aware of any other incidents that happened with those 2 huskies as far as biting another dog. I'm not quite sure if they're even still alive. to be
Okay,
honest.
thank you. I don't think there are any other questions for our witness, right? Okay, so you can leave the table. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask council. I'm not reading a motion at this point. I'm open to discussion. We had one thought from Deputy Mayor Armour about Councillor Stone.
Thanks very much. So I was attacked by a dog when I was a kid, and those feelings stay with me, and I'm still nervous around dogs, as the mayor knows. And I suspect the lady we've just heard from will have some lasting effects. And no one should be nervous walking down the streets of Huntsville. So I'm prepared to support the staff report and keep the muzzle on.
Okay, all right. Yes, Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship, and more of a comment as well. I just want to make it clear that I'm actually a cat person. I do like dogs very much. I'm an animal lover, but I am a cat person. But I really feel for both sides, but I really do feel for the owner in the sense that this was a puppy. It was a young dog when this happened. So, and I would, if I had a dog, I think it would be very difficult to have a dog muzzled at such a young age and continue to have it muzzled for as long as it is. And that's just my heartstrings going out. Like I really do feel for the owner and for the dog. But then I'm torn because on the other side, you know, if this dog does do something and we lift the ban and it does bite someone, we will be liable. So we've never had to decide something like this. And at this point, I don't know what my decision will be. In some case, I do believe, I would agree with Corey that we should not lift the ban. And I think that's where I'm going to stay for now, not lifting it. It's a difficult decision, though, for sure.
It's an extremely difficult decision. And there's part of me, I think one lesson we've learned is we have a licensing committee, that perhaps we need to look at the responsibilities of that licensing committee so that we're not in this situation again, because this is really bizarre to me. But Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I'll just close up my final thoughts. I almost want to just take this dog home, so it can have a backyard to run in, and living in a condo is going to be a challenge for that dog. And I wonder long-term if maybe that's the better option. For a husky to live in a condo is tough. And especially to have to be muzzled. It's not fair to that poor dog, which is probably an unbelievable dog, just based on the letters and stuff. But I can't support even getting a professional designation from someone. I can't support going against Mr. Crusen's recommendation because he's lived this file, we haven't. And to have him recommend this and us go against it, the liability, and also me sleeping at night if something were to happen, I don't think I could. I hope there's a way to find this dog some joy in his life or her life, but I don't think lifting the ban is something I can support right now.
Thank you for that. I have read about various muzzles, and I'm sure you have too, that there are definitely muzzles that are considered absolutely humane, that dogs can pant and they can drink and they can do all of that. Is that that's something that you've, I'm sure, looked into, and the muzzle that you use does all of that? So I know, so that I gather there are muzzles that don't do that, but there are definitely muzzles that do, that I've read on the Humane Society site and others that talk about those other muzzles. So I was just curious if you had, which it sounds like you've done the same research. Are there any other questions before I read a motion? So Councillor Fitzgerald, followed by Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. This is causing me great grief. I have 2 rescue huskies at home, and one looks exactly like Nova, and she's a gentlest female, and as a pup was as well. The dogs fight. They're best friends, and they give each other puncture wounds, play fighting. The big husky, a boy, I can't take him off the property because he's aggressive. And I know that, so I don't. We got the other dog to keep him company, and they have a great area to run through and play. So as much as I want to say, yeah, remove the muzzle, in good conscience, I can't.
Thank you for that. I'm going to Councillor Clark and then Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and I'll keep this brief. I listened to Deputy Mayor Armour's idea, and I will admit that the idea to get a professional opinion does make some sense to me as well. But as I've listened around the table here today, my personal opinion on this is it's just not worth the risk. And that's the way I see it. And my greatest fear would be that there's a small child or somebody that's injured severely, and so it's just not worth the risk, in my opinion.
Thank you. Councillor Schumacher.
Through you, Mayor Alcock, to Mr. Crusen. As the mayor suggested, there's different types of muzzles, but did they have to come in and show you what they've got and you have to approve? Is there a certain type that we allow, or can it be just any muzzle?
Through you, Your Worship, there's no specific muzzle. It's just as long as there's a muzzle on there that would stop the dog from biting a domestic pet or a person, essentially.
Okay, I think I've heard from everybody. Is there a councillor that would like to propose a motion? We have a draft, but open? No, I would like to read a motion then. Do I have to have someone move a motion?
If I could, Mayor Alcock, Does the Councillor Morrison want to put motion on the floor to uphold the decision?
Or Councillor Stone. I think
Councillor
Councillor
Stone.
Stone was very clear. So Councillor Stone, all right. And Councillor Morrison, will you second the motion? Okay. Am I reading it on the screen? Okay. I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that the following muzzle order appeal hearing decision be and is hereby rendered, that the muzzle order dated November 1st, 2022 to the Husky Golden Retriever Cross, Valerie Kittner at Grandview Hilltop Drive be and is hereby upheld. Are there questions or comments? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Yeah, that carries. Thank you, Chair Stone. I now declare this portion of the meeting respecting Report Development 2024-52 consideration of lifting of muzzle order concluded. We will now move to the next portion of the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for your deputations. Okay, we are moving to our invited and ceremonial presentations, 6.1. We have presentations from Caleb Denbach and Sergeant Brandon Dene from the OPP Huntsville Detachment regarding the Community Street Crime Unit. Welcome, gentlemen.
All right, Mayor Elcock, Council, thank you very much for having us here tonight. I'm Detective Sergeant Brandon Denete with the Community Street Crime Unit, and to my left is Detective Staff Sergeant Caleb Denbach, who's our Operations Manager for all of Central Region Community Street Crime. So the Huntsville and Bracebridge OPP detachments are comprised of a blended Community Street Crime Unit, known as CSCU, that are dedicated to enforcing and suppressing organized crime within the District of Muskoka. Known as the Muskoka Community Street Crime Unit, our primary duties include drug trafficking investigations and gang-related crimes as it pertains to firearms, violence, and drugs. Additionally, CSCU teams investigate multi-jurisdictional or high-value property crimes and wanted person investigations, as well as assisting the OPP Criminal Investigations Branch and the Major Crime Unit with opioid-related deaths and their related investigations. Our Muskoka CSCU team is comprised of 4 detective constables and 1 detective sergeant. Our investigations are completed equally throughout the District of Muskoka between Huntsville and Bracebridge detachment areas, and often have a very strong correlating crime trend due to the proximity and the shared access to transportation along the Highway 11 corridor. One of the main investigations that we, as part of our mandate, is revolving around opioid-related deaths and drug trafficking. Data from the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit outlines a 4-year trend in opioid-related overdose deaths in several communities across the region that was highlighted in the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, where deaths were at a high. Since that time, they've been steadily decreasing throughout all of Simcoe Muskoka. However, approximately 80 to 85% is still related to fentanyl, correlating to their death. The trends within Huntsville, Lake of Bays, and the surrounding communities are very similar to that, whereas in 2021, the trends were at their highest with 59 related occurrences within Huntsville, Lake of Bays, specifically relating to opioid deaths or non-fatal overdose occurrences. Since 2021, that number has been continually decreasing, and at this year, we're lower. We only have 6 occurrences so far this year that we've been investigating, so the trend is going downwards. The Muskoka Community Street Crime Unit has been involved in 950 occurrences in the past 3 years, and during that time, over 700 criminal code and CDSA, or Controlled Drugs and Substances Act charges, have been laid. To highlight that, there's been over 4.7 kilograms of cocaine seized off the streets of Muskoka, as well as over 2,200 grams of fentanyl. So to put that into perspective, that's 22,000 doses of fentanyl for your average user. So it's a very significant amount. The other highest stat is that there's been 20 handguns and long guns seized off of the streets of Muskoka as well in the past 3 years. Of those guns, there's been 9 that are handguns, which are generally related to crimes outside of Muskoka as well. So it's a very significant impact that our unit has made within the District of Muskoka. As the OPP and the CSCU teams continue to proactively suppress and enforce organized crime related to drug trafficking, the District of Muskoka continues to see mirroring trends. Opioid-related deaths and seizures have steadily increased from year to year. Already this year, we've already seized 4 times the amount of fentanyl within the District of Muskoka as we did last year. So the seizures are going up, which is significant. And thankfully, we're also seeing the death rate come down to date, which is a very positive impact in terms of public safety within the District of Muskoka, and specifically here in Huntsville and Lake of Bays. In February 2023, the Community Safety and Policing Grant was granted to the Central Region Community Street Crime Unit. The grant specifically targets gun and gang violence, as well as drug-related investigations. Due to the crossover between the drug subcultures in several Central Region communities, but specifically between Huntsville and Bracebridge, these additional resources have and continue to have a significant benefit on the District of Muskoka and the surrounding communities. Criminal investigations, and particularly drug investigations, require a considerable amount of time to yield positive results. We're not able to share information pertaining to our ongoing investigations, but we do highlight our work through the media when we're able to at the conclusion of cases. The Muskoka Community Street Crime Unit will continue to remain committed to ensuring public safety and addressing the opioid trafficking, as well as gun and gang violence within Huntsville, Lake of Bays, and throughout the entirety of the District of Muskoka. And with that, if there's any questions from council, we'd be happy to answer what we can.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It's really enlightening and quite staggering, those numbers. Councillor Cluche.
Through you, Chair. You're doing a great job.
Yep.
I can just see over the last few years, things getting cleaned up. I like almost daily, the news is coming up and there's somebody getting caught with something between here and further north. I just got a question about the handguns. Are the people that you're catching with the handguns, might be crazy question here, but are they residents of Muskokas or just north of here? Or are they outside sellers coming up out of the city that you're catching with the drugs? Just because I'm sure a lot of people in town would want to know is there a chance their neighbor has a handgun, or the people that you're catching bringing the drugs in have the handguns?
The majority of our investigations relate around GTA-based gang members or associates traveling out of the GTA into the smaller communities, specifically into Muskoka, Huntsville, Lake of Bays. And the primary seizures of handguns and narcotics have been from GTA-based residents.
Yeah, no kidding. That's an interesting comment. Yes, that is good. Right. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks for the presentation. I'm curious about the opioids. Do you think it's decreasing because of the more availability of Narcan now for drug houses and stuff like that? Are they just not calling you, or do you feel like they're just not taking it? The drug addicts just aren't taking opioids anymore?
I think it's a combination of a number of factors. Obviously, the heart of the numbers were in the COVID pandemic, so people were isolated, so the numbers were much higher. They weren't in larger groups. But like you brought up, several people have Narcan available. Our Mobile Crisis Response Team, so MCERT, is a huge proponent in that, as well as the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit, in having Narcan available. And what we find, a lot of our users, they have Narcan, and a lot of the time the police aren't called. It's only if they're not able to revive someone and paramedics get involved, a lot of the time do the police get notified that there's been a non-fatal overdose. So the numbers are probably much higher than what's reported to the police, just because people are looking after things themselves and taking care of each other, which is a positive.
I'd just highlight too, in the last few years as well, community resource programs have significantly increased as more awareness is brought forward for the opioid pandemic. So that will also attribute to the statistics. The more supports within the community, the less fatal overdoses you'll see too, based on Narcan.
Follow up?
Can I throw a tricky one at you? What do you think about injection houses are safe places to do drugs.
It's a little bit, it's a bit loaded, but there you go. There's probably a full
Not too
evening.
tricky. I will say that our mandate as a unit is to focus on the enforcement side and the supply. So that's our direction at this point, is to focus on the drug traffickers within the communities.
That was an excellent answer. Holy cow, whoa, that was very well done. I'm looking at the commander up there. That was excellent. And I'm glad you asked that, because that was one of the things, what accounts for the difference, and you've answered that. That was interesting about community resources. I think I was going, was it Councillor Cloutier? It was? No, it was, okay, Councillor Morrison, I think you were next.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. Very impressive what you guys are doing. Obviously, a lot of us ran on trying to help mental health and addictions and everything else, but we can't do that much about it without what you guys do on the streets. And I guess you must sometimes feel like like you're like wiping tables in a thunderstorm. Like the more work you do, there's still more piling on you. So my question is, because you're accomplishing so much and making a dent, and you must have a province-wide coordinated effort, are you finding because of this, you're able to, and maybe you can't answer this, but you're able to go after bigger outfits and stem the flow of people coming from GTAs into smaller communities because you're getting into the network of the bigger gangs?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously, intelligence starts from the ground up, and our mandate is to focus on local traffickers coming into the community. We don't necessarily focus in on importation, but every step that we take definitely lends to climbing that ladder, to finding importers. That again addresses kind of a provincial strategy that the OPP takes as well.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and thank you, fellas, for being here tonight. Appreciate the work that you do, for sure. A lot of what you're talking about tonight sounds like a lot of the focus seems to be on crime that starts in the GTA and then works its way up here through drug dealing and whatnot. We had a situation here in town not too very long ago with a handgun situation where a criminal was apprehended close to a public school with a handgun. So I guess my question is, I definitely am appreciative of the work that you're doing as far as the influx here. I guess my concern is, what are we doing for known areas that we know are issues here in town, where we know that there is illegal activity occurring on a regular basis? How are we working towards solving and preventing those issues?
Which one would like to take that? It's a great question.
Yeah, so obviously when there are community concerns, specifically relating to drug or weapons offenses, that's something that our unit does investigate. If people have information pertaining to that, we ask that they do call into the OPP non-emergency line. Then a call for service is registered, and then the information can be passed on to our unit so that we can continue to investigate that proactively based on those complaints.
So just to top up as well, with reference to your question to local community residents, I guess, when these incidents kind of spur up, our unit does address that as well. We're not solely focused on traffickers outside of your community coming in. We address needs of the community as they're reported in as well. But we also work with Uniform to provide, because we're a covert capacity unit, to provide a more overt response as well. So you might not always see us and what we're doing, but we are working with Uniform to address the issues.
I should say that I had the opportunity to go for a 3-hour ride-along with one of the officers, and it was remarkable. It was truly enlightening, and I am incredibly appreciative of everything you all are doing. And it's amazing how much knowledge you do have about what's going on in our community, and how you deal with that is also equally remarkable. So thank you for that. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Alcock. So with a lot of the drug relations and what you've sort of confiscated or figured out, back in my day, and I guess I'm dating myself, it used to be that they'd come in and kind of target young, you'd hear about it at the high schools or whatever. But now since COVID, as you've said, there's been an increase. Is it just across an age range, or is there still like a target generation that they tend to come in and target when they're selling, and the traffickers?
And generally what we're seeing in the traffickers that are coming out of the GTA into the smaller communities, it's not necessarily an age group. It's already a drug user. That's who they're targeting. It doesn't matter what the age is, whether they're 15 or they're 65. They're going to provide a service, being drugs, regardless of the age of the user, unfortunately.
Councillor Morrison?
Sorry, last question, because I'll probably regret not asking it, but you guys are definitely going after the supply and everything else. And I know that with the mobile response team, there's mental health supports now with our OPP, which is amazing from talking to our detachment commander. Is there coordination, because there's supply, but there's also demand. And a lot of people with opiate addiction have mental health issues. And is there some mental health supports for those that are struggling in our community right now that might prevent that demand and prevent the need for as many people coming from the GTA to supply those people with concerns?
Yeah, so the mobile crisis response team obviously is there to assist people as they want help. If they don't want the help, it's a struggle. Especially with our unit, we deal with a number of people who do have addictions. We can't force someone to try and solve their addiction problem, but the more outreach there are between the mobile crisis response team, the health unit, the more opportunities there is for that person to kick the addiction that they have. So the resources are there if the people want it. That's the biggest struggle that we find.
And just to touch on, we're not solely focused, the enforcement piece is big for us, but it's also a victim-centered approach as well. So often when we're conducting this enforcement or speaking with victims or members who are in the community addicted to opioids, we provide those additional supports through our outreach in our program as well.
Follow up?
And just follow up, because that answer makes me so happy. And I think for the public to know, I think this is an example of the work you guys are doing, the fact that deaths are going down. I think there's a direct relation to the fact that we're investing money into the OPP to bring mobile response teams to deal with people that are struggling. And you guys are going out and going after so many things. And it makes me so happy that our town is getting better because of the work you're doing. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks for all you do in the community. I know that everything you do helps a little bit. The numbers were staggering for me. The amount of fentanyl, like it blew my mind. If there's any way we can share that information with the public, because I don't think anyone's aware of how much is out there. So thanks for that.
Okay. Thank you both. It was great, great presentation. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right, it'd be good if I turned my mic on. All right. We do have one deputation, and that's with Grace Willows from Windmill Bakery and Bistro. Grace, would you join us? That would be great, to discuss the refreshment vehicle at a public beach. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. Thank you, Council, for having me. My name is Grace Willows, and I am one of the co-owners of Windmill Bakery and Bistro. And I'm here, Mayor, to request permission to operate our new refreshment vehicle at two public beaches, Port Sydney and Hutchison. The refreshment vehicle would be operating between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays in the summer. And we hope to service with our mostly made in-house or made in at the bakery baked goods, sandwiches, cold, hot, and beverages, and also supplement that with some sweet treats and butter tarts and donuts, any refreshments that could be as healthy as possible, at least made from good, well-sourced, high-quality ingredients. So this is what we are requesting. We have had a successful past month launching this catering truck in going to local businesses. And we really feel that it has been a way to grow our business and service maybe some businesses that were inadequately serviced in the past because we could only service from our storefront. So we've now been able to go different routes on different days, usually weekly, to regular businesses and provide lunch options for them, which are, again, mostly made at our bakery. The vehicle would leave every morning with freshly made goods and return every end of day back to the bakery. This bakery has been operating for about 45 years. I am very humbled to be able to be part of this journey. There have been previous owners prior to myself, and we hope it can continue for many more years serving this community. We've really seen an appreciation, and it seems to be well received. But just like with inflation and the pressures of other larger corporations, it's definitely been a bit of a struggle to sometimes find ways to keep a business thriving. And that's also one of the reasons we've thought of this new component. Rather than just a storefront, let's launch a refreshment vehicle, which seemed to not be in existence in this community, but well received. There had been one, I think, many, many years ago. And so now we thought this might be a good opportunity to both grow our business as well as service the community with another opportunity. And we do not plan to provide any damage to the properties that we go to, but rather leave customers with knowing they've eaten something healthy and serviced another local business. Thank you very much.
Grace, thank you very much for your deputation. I know for a fact that the quality of your goods is excellent, perhaps a little too, if just saying, just a little too, because it's great. I love Windmill, so just saying that. But I will ask Council if there are any questions. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Arbour, for giving me the chance to go first. Thank you, Grace, for your presentation. And I heard your commercial on the radio saying that you would take your cart or your truck to locations. You're going on to their own private property to provide a service to that. So, but what you're asking us today is to go on to public property, so Hutchison Beach, and the other one was in Port Sydney, right? So we do have an application process, do we not, for a business to go onto public property? So I think
we do.
Yeah.
And so at this point, the normal process, Grace, just so you know, after our deputations, we go through the remainder of our normal agenda. And near the end of the meeting, we discuss as a council with staff the ask of our deputants. So later on, we can ask that question when we're talking about it. There is a process, and I believe our Director of Development Services is ready to respond on a number of those things. All right, and Deputy Mayor Armour, followed by Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks very much. Windmill Bakery, I've visited many times on my way to work. I'm curious, do you have two trucks or one? Because I think you said 11 to 2 at Hutchison, 11 to 2 at Port Sydney, or do you have different set hours?
We have one truck at this point. I placed the request not knowing exactly which day or times we would be at which beach. So I wanted to have permission to have that flexibility if that is granted. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship, and I love your product. I visit your store all the time, and I get bread to go and sometimes lunch and soup, and so thanks for being there and expanding and serving the community. I think we have a town policy that doesn't allow refreshment vehicles on town property, so I understand why you're here, and I think we kind of had that in place. I think, especially Port Sydney, in a unique situation where you have one store that's open year-round, and it's the summer business that allows them to stay in business. So I think it would be a disservice to my community if I allowed that to happen and that single store couldn't support itself and we are without that convenience the other 10 months of the year. So from a community perspective, I still like the policy where we don't allow it on public spaces. If it's private, it's private, and you can entertain yourself in the fair market. But I like our public policy currently, and I think it's there for a very good reason. So
Appreciate that comment. I believe, and again, we'll get into the discussions around the public property, and that's exactly why you're here tonight. We have done pilots before, but I appreciate your comments. We've had those discussions around the Port Sydney Beach for sure. Councillor Schumacher.
I was just going to concur. I mean, for you to expand your business and grow, would it be a detriment to the 2 restaurants that are in that area that are trying to pull people maybe away from the beach for lunch? And as Councillor Fitzgerald said, we have the one store that does depend on that, people walking to their store to get baked goods and ice cream and all of that stuff in the time frame of the summer, and that is their thing. We have had proposals for this, and I know I have gone against it for the beach. Now, if you wanted to talk to the people at Smith's and have something on the side by Smith's gas station, there has been opportunities there with different businesses have done that. I don't know if they have a plan for this summer, but that is one we've sort of suggested, that you can catch that group coming through the gas station area.
Yes, Grace.
Thank you for both your inputs. Thank you, Council. Mayor, I am aware of other businesses there, and I do believe they exist there year-round. So yes, I totally understand that. I saw it more as a perspective of healthy business, giving them another option. I don't think our products would replace what they offer. We have different products, and I think what they have is still very valuable, and it would be just other options, and we would there be limited time. But at the same time, I respect your decision because you see the broader picture and you see all the different businesses involved, and I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Thank you for that. All right, are there any other questions for Grace? Nope. Okay. Oh, Councillor Stoll.
Well, I'd just like to comment on what's been said about the current businesses. And I made the same argument when there were several food trucks opening just across the bridge, threatening our restaurants. However, if it is different fare and it's only one truck, I don't think it would threaten the survival of a business. And we are the licensing, so it would only be one truck. And competition does make us better. So
And I appreciate those comments. Could I ask, though, that could we wait until we discuss
Sure.
this motion later in the meeting? Thank you, Councillor Stoll. All right. Thank you, Grace. I've explained the process, and so we'll get to this a bit later on. All right. So moving along to our council minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that the following council meeting minutes be adopted as printed and circulated. Regular Council, April 22nd, 2024. Planning Council, May 15th, 2024. Questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay. So, reports for information. Starting with the Huntsville Public Library Board. Councillor Cloutier, do you have anything to report?
No, it's written, and we did have a meeting last month. We had CEO come over and talk about the annex, so, and that was approved for till 2026. The library board is approved. Yeah.
Until the end of term, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I'll let-
I think the
That's what I was
CA
looking at. you.
I think there was
Come
a
on,
little
get me
bit of
here.
a look.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I was in attendance at the library board meeting. We did have a closed session discussion, and out of that closed session came a resolution agreeing that the library board would support the health clinic to continue to use the annex building until, I believe it was March of 2026. So as most of us are aware, they did receive funding from the province that will allow them to have ongoing operations. So we just wanted to make sure that the library board was still very supportive, which they were, to allow them to use that space.
That's great. Good news.
And
Thank you.
they're
Thank you for
looking
that.
into some satellite locations like Port Sydney and Utterson or somewhere like that. They're looking at the book dispensers. That's,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
so that's in the works.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, moving right along, the Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tourism Tax Association. Councillor Morrison, anything to add?
Not much to report other than we're revamping things a bit. We're going to have intake periods now. So there's going to be 2 periods a year where people can request funding. And that is coming about soon. People are starting to submit their funding requests. Other than that, it's status quo.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the Downtown Huntsville BIA. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. You have the minutes before you for information, but I would like to share some news from the BIA that our Executive Director, Morgan Longsdale, has resigned, effective as of June the 7th. And maybe I won't share with you what she's going to do. It's a good thing, but maybe I'll let her share that with you. But some other good notes about the BIA. We have finished, they have finished the strategic planning that they have looked at. So we did 3 sessions with a really great coordinator. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, we're reviewing all of the bylaws and procedures for the BIA, which is kind of a good time right now that if they're hiring and if we're going to be hiring a new person, then we can review some of those policies and procedures through the BIA, which is always good to do. So that's happening as well. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any questions? I don't see any. All right. The Aspen Community Center Ad Hoc Committee, Councillor Schumacher. Well, I absolutely did. I skipped Huntsville Lake Bay's change. I was checking to see who would notice. Who would notice, I know, and that's true. Absolutely, there were minutes. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And yes, there are minutes, which is lovely to see. They've been very busy. They had a very successful beer festival during the May long weekend, which the weather was absolutely amazing. I was there for a portion of it, just, as a council, as a board member, I thought I should attend. It was very well attended in the afternoon. And they are also taking on a strategic planning session as well, and that is actually starting tomorrow. So, yeah, lots going on. But the chamber is going through some changes after, having lost Kelly, and the H. Maddock group has developed. They're looking at really what the focus is of the Chamber of Commerce. So having a strat plan is a really good idea as well. So lots of great things happening there.
A lot of really critical stuff happening with those 2 organizations, right? And it's good timing, because a lot is going on, especially with the accommodation tourism, board. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I don't see any questions, so now I'll go to Aspen Community Center Ad Hoc Committee.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, the minutes are there. I apparently had made a mistake at the last time I talked about these minutes, and there is no Wi-Fi at the Aspen Hall. I thought maybe we had some, and then when the servers were down, that was why it was down. So they are requesting that, so we are looking at that for budget process, and they're actually themselves going out to get quotes from Bell, because I believe it is the only option out at that area at this time. So they're working towards that, and then, yeah, they have some great new events, and I will maybe chat with marketing about how to entice people out that way to some of the things that they have going on that they are looking to do. So that is pretty much it. If you have any questions.
Are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you for the report. All right, so moving right along to reports for adoption, starting with 9.2.1, General Committee, April 24th, 2024. I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the General Committee meeting minutes dated April 24th, 2024, and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as printed and circulated, with the exception of recommendation GC 55-24 to be pulled and voted on separately. Are there any questions with respect to the remainder of the report? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. And now, with respect to the separate motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Cluche, it is recommended that committee approve the draft parking control bylaw attached to Schedule A to Report Development 2024-36, and further that staff present the bylaw to council for consideration. Councillor Cluche, would you like to speak to this?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. This, you are the one that asked.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, the big reason here is I did the price range and different in parking charges, fees from the fire lanes, the fire routes to the normal parking or parking in the new electrical outlets there for the cars. We think it's 125 or whatever it went through. But I'm suggesting that we charge, because people have to sit back and look and listen, that if something ever happened because a car was parked there in front of a hydrant or a truck or anything like this for a certain amount of time blocking a fire route, and something happened that cost somebody's life or a whole building burnt down because of it, or our ambulances couldn't get into somebody in time for a heart attack or whatever. So I'm proposing $250 fee for the parking in the fire zone. Sign on underneath where it says the fire route, with the amount there. And I would even entertain towing the vehicle because it's got to get out of there. So even if we tack on into towing, parking, and then tow them and get them out and send the message out. I think it's something we have to do, just ease of mind of ourselves as a council and as a town. I mean, you go to a lot of other communities, that's approximately about the cost of the fine, and most of the time you get towed. So that's...
Thank you for that. Could I ask Officer Corey Cruson to come up, and if council has any questions as to why this change wasn't in there, whatever. Corey, would you mind speaking to this, please? Thank you. As to the proposed change.
Yep, through your worship, I have done a little bit of research with within Muskoka as well as some southern municipalities. A lot of their fire route charges are anywhere between $150 and $250.
Mm-hmm.
Like Muskoka Lakes and Georgian Bay, they're $150. Get farther down south towards like Toronto, Mississauga, they're at that $250 range.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Clark, I'm sorry, maybe it was okay, Councillor Clark first.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. And a question for Corey, I guess. I just want to know, is this something that our bylaw department would be able to properly enforce? Because fines are fantastic, but really it comes down to being able to enforce it. So I guess my question is, do we have the capability to do that properly?
Yep, through your worship. We do have the staff, especially in the summer months as well as winter months, to monitor Darragh Highway specifically and any other town fire routes. It'd be essentially another or an addition amount on top of the ticket kind of thing. So right now it's $75 and $100. It'd just be up to $250 right away.
Okay, I think I'm going to Councillor Renwick, followed by Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship, once again. I know that through Your Worship to Corey, in another report, you said there were 46 Darragh Holloway tickets. And I'm sorry that I'm jumping ahead because I think it's coming as a report to General Committee. I just happened to read ahead. So there were 46 tickets in 2023 on Darragh Holloway. That's a fair number. And it'd be nice to know, was it concentrated in the summertime or was it throughout the year? Like, I'm not quite sure. So that's my one concern and one question. I also know that we, as a council, have decided to propose a parking study for downtown because I feel very strongly that if we don't want people to park there. We already have a $100 by our fine, and they're still parking there. Changing it to $250 is penalizing people even stronger if they're there because they can't find a parking spot. They park there, they run into AO or something, and they come out and they leave. So we're penalizing our customers, and because there is no other place to park in that area, right? So that it's hard to do that. I understand from a safety point of view that if you have cars parked there, you can't, you can't get trucks in there, you can't ambulance in there. I'm conflicted because that's a $250 fine hopefully would deter them, but they're not right now. Do you think that $250 will deter them from ever parking there? I don't think they will.
Follow, sorry, can I go?
You may, but.
I think the question was directed.
After you respond, I might make a suggestion after you respond.
So in the cases, like, it's not a pick up and drop off area. There are areas that are pick up and drop off, okay? Fire lanes can't be pick up and drop off. Fire lanes are for emergency vehicles. That's why they're designated. That's why they're there. If we didn't need them, they wouldn't be there. And I understand through somebody going in, just have to pick something up or whatever. If somebody's doing a store delivery, a delivery truck, I mean, our staff know that, okay, it's a delivery, it's going to be delivered, they're going to leave. But I mean, just giving people the right to do pick up and drop off in emergency lanes is not the gist of this. The gist of it is, and it's at 46 or 48 tickets, 46 tickets. That's a big amount. That's a lot of people saying that they don't care. And it's about time people care, because if something does happen, just think about it, that we couldn't respond because we've got 2 cars parked in that area that staff has to deal with. I understand the parking situation downtown. I mean, everybody does, but I mean, letting people use our fire lanes, I don't see a purpose for them.
So, all right, sorry. Thank you for that response. And I will say, obviously, there are lots of issues around this. And I think that the issues raised by Councillor Renwick, very important, but it seems to me that we're entering into a full-blown discussion. And it's a good discussion. It's a healthy discussion. But I don't feel, for me, my preference would be, I'd like to send this back to general we can have a big discussion there at that table, unless other people feel strongly about one way or the other. I'm not allowed to look, but it's not, oh yeah, because it's right in front of me. Is it right in front? No, it's not in front of me. It's on the screen. I have promised a Deputy Mayor Armour to speak, but I did suggest one way to go.
Thanks, Your Worship. I agree. I'm just curious, maybe, Corey, can you explain to us the process of actually raising the fine? Because I think you have to go through the Attorney General, right, and get approvals for stuff like that. You just can't do it.
Yeah, through your worship, you do have to amend the bylaw to start with. And then it does have to go, that set fine does have to be sent to the Senior Justice for their approval, and they do match it with other municipalities, kind of like a wide range. And then they will either confirm it or they'll send it back, either denied, or they may lower it themselves and give you a different, might be more in line with Georgian Bay or Muskoka Lakes at the 150. So I can say that Muskoka Lakes and Georgian Bay, they sent theirs away at 150, didn't get any pushback. It was just sent back to 150. So.
Okay, that's useful. Councillor Morrison?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I could fully support Councillor Cloutier's proposal because I share Councillor Renwick's concern, because I've tried to park down there at times, but after a bit of time, I can always find a spot, and there is spots that we have designated nearby to downtown, and I know it's sometimes an inconvenience, but it is about safety. So I'd be okay with it going to general, as long as we're not asking Mr. Cruson to do a detailed report and take more staff time. I think if it comes to general, we can have a discussion, but I know staff is pretty bogged down at the moment, so I just wouldn't want to see a report asked for.
Okay, I know that's absolutely fair. I was just thinking that we were getting into a dialogue, and I'd prefer not to do it tonight. I would prefer to do that another. Well, I just think that, you know, unless, to your point, Councillor Morrison, unless there's an appetite around the table right now, and maybe I was a bit premature, and if there is an appetite to go with your suggestion, Councillor Cluche, then maybe I was a bit premature. So if you would like to put a motion on the floor.
I think if Councillor Cluche has already moved it, I would second it. And then we could have a vote
Councillor
at the
Cluche,
table.
would you like to put that motion on the floor?
Yes, I would, please.
Yes, okay. Do we have
Thank you.
that motion? And second it? No, not to vote on Councillor Cluche's proposed amendment, which is to raise the fine to, oh, good. I'd love it when Tanya joins me. That's so great.
If I could just ask for clarification, Mayor Alcock. My understanding is the councillor wanted to raise the fines, but the Councillor Stone wanted to add something about towing. So do I understand? I know you
Okay.
haven't really mentioned that. Do you want to leave that out for
That-
now?
You see, I didn't know that Councillor Stone wanted to add something about towing, but that then does exactly what I was saying. So right now, we're asking council without any, you know, yes, I know we had warning about this, so I understand completely why you pulled it, but I think now we're adding different features to the policy, and it's not as straightforward as just saying, let's raise the fine. So that's how I feel. And I think it's not asking staff to prepare a huge report. You've already done some of the work, Corey, as far as I understand. Lots of comparable municipalities who have raised the fine. Maybe you could add a little bit if there's a towing aspect to this. I don't know. Is there, Councillor Stone?
I'm happy to not address towing at this point.
Okay.
I'm happy to
Just deal with
simply
it.
deal with the increasing the fine.
Okay, all right. All right, yes, Councillor Renwick?
Thank you, Your Worship. I cannot support this at this time. I would like to see the fine stay at $100, but I want to see more enforcement. I want to see consistent enforcement of bylaw officers being down there on a regular basis, and let's not tow them, let's ticket them. But I don't think you need to raise I personally don't think you need to raise the fine. So I will not support 250.
Okay, thank you. You still want to put the motion on the table? Yes, they do. So I can't stop them. They want to. So there we go. Do we have a motion? All right, is it on the screen? Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour, you just look like you want to jump right in. Okay, I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark? No, not Councillor. By Councillor Cluche, seconded by Councillor Morrison. It is recommended that the following be added at the end of paragraph 1 with the following amendments. Schedule A, that in this chart, under column 1, short form wording, parked in a fire route, under column 2, provision creating or defining offense, 3.4, column 3, voluntary payment payable within 7 days, $250, column 4, set fine, $250. Are there any questions with respect to this amendment? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, actually, to Corey, do you not have to go through like an application process to be able to do this? Can we just set that? Do you have to add that in there saying that you set the fine at $250 and then apply for approval of the fine? I don't think we can just
This
add,
is
say
just
it's
a motion to
$250.
amend our bylaw, right?
We just amended the
This-
$250 and it'd be
I
approved?
think our clerk is going to jump in.
I could help the deputy mayor with that. So this bylaw will be going tonight. The bylaw was already, the report was already approved with a change already, and this is just an addition. The bylaw will be going tonight with the 250 in. Then the clerks send it to the court, as the enforcement officer said, and then they will approve it or not, and they will actually send it back to us, and we will change your bylaw if they don't approve that number.
Essentially, we're amending the bylaw, and which is the first step, and then it has to go on, as our clerk just said.
Thanks for that.
Okay, Councillor Morrison?
Just a quick comment about, so just to make it clear, we're not making a willy-nilly decision. For instance, I remember Chief Monahan presenting on the safety factors down there, trying to get the posts out when a fire truck is down there. You can't actually do their job when they're down there. So it has been presented to us quite clearly that it is an issue. And it's not Councilor Cloutier just thinking, hey, I want to do something. And I know me personally, if I saw a $100 fine or a $250 fine, it would impact my decision to park somewhere. So I think it gives Mr. Cruson the ability to do as much as he can for enforcement, which would help everybody. So.
All right, thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald?
I would just like to note that in Toronto, they push the vehicles out of the way or they put destabilizing equipment through the vehicles.
Yeah, destabilize, that's for sure. Yeah, I know, not that I have any knowledge of that. Yes, last comment, Councillor
I just
Renwick.
have to echo what Councillor Fitzgerald just said, because that is very true. If there was a fire and there was a car or a truck there, they're going to push it out of the way or sit on top of it.
Yeah,
I bet you that. I know, and
Having
we don't
said
want that to
may
happen.
not be the best
No, I
solution,
know, I
right?
know,
You know,
but
it's sort of for anybody,
if it
really.
had to-
You know, it's sort of, it takes some time to do that. It's your, anyway. All right, I think we've had enough discussion about this, so I am going to call the question on the proposed amendment. All those in favor? All those opposed? Councillor Renwick, good for you. Good for you. I think that's good. Not that one, thank you very much. And I didn't doodle on it either. Apparently I doodle all the time on things. So I will call the main motion as amended. All those in favor? All right, and all those opposed? Yeah, and that carries. Thank you all for a healthy discussion, no matter how hard I try to move it off the agenda. Jeez. Oh, my goodness. All right. Moving right along, I think we've got a little too much discussion around the table at the moment. I just want to. All right. I am moving to 9.2.2 Accessibility Advisory Committee, and so that has been moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting minutes dated April 23rd, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated. Are there questions or comments? Councillor Schumacher, do you have any
No,
comments?
pretty much they're there. I did feel bad because we did give the park staff right at the peak of their time a little more work to do on the Moby mat, but we did have a deputation, and so that is what came out of it. And the other piece there that you will see attached is the criteria for bus shelters, which is good going forward, especially with the Northland bus one we're looking to put in. So,
Thank
any
you for
other
that.
questions?
Yeah, it was
free.
actually, it was really a lot of good information in the minutes from that committee.
Yeah,
A lot of
Deb's
good
done some
dialogue.
really great work there.
Yeah.
And so, and then, yeah, we are pushing up our budget sort of accessibility plan review, because what we found happened last time, especially with the hot tub change room issue, was it was presented in July, because that's normally when we do things, then we take August off, and so it didn't get approved till September. So we're trying to move things a little forward to May, June, and,
accommodate.
yeah, to accommodate the budget process.
Perfect. That's great. Good. Any questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that, and that carries. Did someone say 5-minute break? No. It's a 5-minute break? Yeah? Is that what you want? All right. Probably it's time, eh? It's been an hour and a half. Would everybody like a 5-minute break? All right. We're going to have a 5-minute break before we go to our staff report. All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now moving to the reports from municipal officers, starting with Corp 2024-9, a review of the 3 committees of council and the final update from Trevor Donald. Here for information only. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you. So through the mayor, this report is twofold. It goes back and consolidates all the information from the committees, the 3 committees of council, as well as it updates council as to what I've been doing since the committees ended in terms of trying to implement some of the projects that were identified. So we now have the strategic plan, and a lot of the actions that were identified by the committees and their implementation plans can be embedded into the strategic corporate action planning process, which was the intention. Some of the highlights of the report include actions that are currently underway, either in planning or being implemented. Nothing was without challenges, and I need to stress having the staff capacity was essential. Like the previous report, we looked for themes amongst the 3 committees and how to leverage them for better service delivery. And lesson learned includes being agile and then having tangible goals and expectations and building the foundation. So just talking about building the foundation in terms of what I'm working on now, some of the foundation was developed more than a decade ago with the sustainability plan that went forth, as well as the sustainability report cards that were done very diligently. Some of those report cards, I guess the latest one was 2015, we're able to provide to consultants when they're asking, well, what was done in terms of a lot of this work. So just to update council on what's been done since the committees ended in February. I'm currently working on 4 projects. I hope to bring updates on the 4 projects to committee in terms of each individual project. I can answer questions about the 4 projects, but I just wanted to provide council an update as to what's been happening since.
Thank you very much for the report. And as I said earlier, it was a really great report, at least from my perspective, because it showed all of the different items that came out of the committees and some of the really important things, even though you did criticize the terms of reference and as to clearly not setting out goals and objectives. That's okay. I won't personalize. But I guess for me, when I read it, I was a little worried because I think there are a lot of recommendations and a lot of to-dos. And I'm kind of putting it on you a little bit to say, how do you see some of those to-dos happening in a more coordinated way? I know that with our colleague municipalities, we've got the services of the one organization moving in one direction, and that's great. But from our perspective through the Huntsville lens, I think you made reference to it's important to continue to have staff to follow through, and maybe that's difficult for you to answer, but I'm going to ask you that as to why you think that's important.
So through the mayor, so some of the work, especially when it involves sustainability, environment, climate change, a lot of that work has started before I even began with the municipality. So I had to go through a lot of information and figure out what's been done, and then working with the consultants, providing them information, as well as the other area municipalities. Some of the work was district-led, and they used consultants as well. However, a lot of the work was not localized. So a lot of what I've been doing is trying to go through these 4 different projects and make sure that we're making recommendations very similar in each one. So we're overlapping, not necessarily creating redundancy, but making sure that we're aligned. And that would be not possible if it was just a consultant working on 4 separate projects. So I have that ability, as well as I have the ability to see what trends are with the other area municipalities when I meet with them pretty much every 2 weeks, what challenges they're running into as well. And we do have two consultants at the moment that are able to support us. And I leverage them to maybe help define one project, even though they're tasked with another project at the same time. Good example of that is the regulatory requirement of the Conservation and Demand Management Plan. What's very similar is the greenhouse gas inventory and climate change mitigation plan that we're working on. So we made sure that we're using the same baseline year, and a lot of the information is very similar. So we're able to make similar recommendations across the board.
Thank you for that. Are there any other questions with respect to this report? Okay, Trevor, thank you very much. So we are moving to agenda item 10.2, and Greg, we're going to be joined by Greg Pilling with respect to report number CS-2024-8, Port Sydney Utterson and Area Chamber of Commerce Agreement. Welcome, Greg. I do have a motion. I'm moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that Council approve the terms of the agreement with the Port Sydney Utterson and Area Chamber of Commerce as outlined in CS-2024-8 for 5 years, with the option to renew for up to one additional 5-year term for a total of up to 10 years, and further that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign the agreement to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Services. Over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and through you. Just a follow-up from the deputation from the Port Sydney Utterson Chamber from General Committee last month. When I met with them, we just increased it a little bit to give them some more growth and not needing to return as quickly to council. So we discussed similar agreements that we have for other groups in the community, like Parks and Rec and Port Sydney Utterson Community Group, Lions Club, Live Wires, Merritt Mary Lakers, similar 5-year terms with 5-year renewals. And similar amounts of use. We just increased it a little bit to allow growth for them between the two halls and to provide programming over those 10 years. I'm available for any questions.
Great. I have to say, I thought it was a great agreement, and thank you for the work that you put into that. Are there any questions? Councillor Fitzgerald, I'm assuming.
Just a comment. Thanks, Greg, for working with them, and I think they're headed in a new direction with some new leadership, and you know, want to thank the previous leadership there. They did a good job as well. So I think there will be some new relationships built there, including one with the town. So thanks again. Thanks.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Greg, for the report. Just a question where you state that the 5,000 annual support, as well as waiving the rental fees for the remaining 3 events for 2024, and then the waiving of 4 events for 25 and 26. So there's 3 in 24, but there's 4 in 25 and 26? Are they not all this? I thought they were 3 and 3. Like,
Greg?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Alcock. Yeah, we will definitely take care of the waiving of the fees for this year, and then next year it was up to 6 uses as they could use. They can use their 3 programs, ones that they talked about here at General Committee last, and if they decided to grow more or expand or need a setup day, it would just give them more time in the hall.
so just to follow up, so that's the 4 events then in 2025 and 26. Up to 6 events, but you're really just waiving the 4 that are in 2020.
We would waive all the fees up to
6.
Yeah, up to
Thank you.
6. Yeah, and then for my apologies for the $5,000, that would be through the economic development officer, which was $5,000 this year, and each year they'd revisit that.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Those funds still come from the short-term rental, or they come from town budget?
Director Mackenzie.
The 5,000 that's included with economic development for the waiving is through the MAT funds.
Okay.
So 2 different
Can I
sources.
follow up, Your Worship?
Yes.
And we are in conjunction with internal departments to deal with that fund, or like, do we need to be involved, I guess is the question I'm asking.
I don't think so. Director Mackenzie, you're sort of, she's nodding, not really, but perhaps because Maybe I'm not following the question again. If you could
Well,
repeat the
yeah,
question, unless Mr. Pilling looks like he knows where you're going with that. So, Greg.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Alcock. So we'll go through the budget process each year. They'll work with our economic development officer, and they'll request through the budget process. So you'll still be involved in that through budget.
Okay, I kind of follow one more follow. I kind of thought we removed ourselves from the funding of all the chambers and allowed it to go directly through to short-term rental.
In fact,
The MAC group,
I think
sorry.
we still, at budget time, we still go through, right? Yes. Okay, I think well, one more time, Councillor Fitzgerald, before I put words in your mouth, Councillor Fitzgerald.
I was under the impression that both the Huntsville Liquor-Based Chamber and the Port City Chamber were receiving their money directly from the Mahatma Group and not the town.
They are, but it has to show up in the budget. So
Thank you.
that answers your question,
Clarify.
right? Thank you,
I'm glad it was so
CAO
easy.
Corey. She's used to your mind, I think. Perhaps, All right. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, I will call a question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you so much. It's because of all those hours at AMO, Roma. Okay, whoa, all right. So we are moving to item 10.3. And Lauren has joined us with respect to report number development 2024-51 physician recruitment incentive package. And I guess I should be reading this whole motion, right? We do have a motion. I'm going to read it. Moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Stone, whereas Resolution 57-24 directed Councillors Stone and Morrison to work with staff and local physicians to create an incentive program to attract family physicians and report back to Council for approval. And whereas due to an urgent timeline and in lieu of a program, Council adopted Resolution 67-24 authorizing staff to offer up to a maximum of $60,000 signing incentive per physician as selected through the recruitment process and to a maximum of 4 physicians. And whereas significant interest has been expressed by many local businesses, organizations, groups, and residents to offer additional incentives to attract and retain physicians, which include financial contributions, in-kind support, and donations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council authorizes an incentive program to attract family physicians as follows. Staff to offer $60,000 per physician taking over an existing practice and up to a maximum of $80,000 per physician establishing a new family practice signing incentive per physician as selected through the recruitment process and to a maximum of 10 physicians in total. The waiving of fees to 10 Muskoka Heritage Place and Pioneer Village Family Pass, 1-year membership, and Family Skate and Swim, 1-year membership. And further that the funds for physician recruitment be drawn from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve, and further that the parameters of the signing incentive to be outlined in an agreement to the satisfaction of the Chief Administrative Officer, and further that the funds to be released in accordance with the executed agreement, and further that the Director of Development Services be authorized to sign the agreements. Lauren, over to you.
Okay, through you, Your Worship. So the report here today outlines a recommended physician recruitment incentive package to help attract doctors to the town of Huntsville. Through research and analysis of surrounding municipalities, which I'd also like to thank and recognize my colleague Trevor Donald, who just presented a little bit earlier, for his support on. The package that you see here today has been designed to be competitive within Ontario. The main components of this program include a recommended amount of $60,000 to up to $80,000 for up to 10 doctors. The initial $60,000 would be for those taking over a practice and up to $80,000 for those starting a new practice that would help to address unattached patients. In addition, the incentive would also include from the town passes to Muskoka Heritage Place, Canada's Summit Center for skating and swimming. The incentives do not stop there, for our community has generously jumped into action to support this initiative. So of course, we want to say thank you already for those who have reached out. And at the time of writing this report, community-supported items were not yet finalized. However, Councillor Morphin and Councillor Stone can speak to some of the items that they have so far collected. So if that's okay with Mayor Alcock, if we can hand it over to Councillor Stone and Councillor Morrison to perhaps highlight some of the items.
Okay, that's great. Which one of you two? Yes, Councillor Stone.
Thank you, if I can start. Thanks, Lauren, great report. If this passes tonight, it will be a great day for Huntsville. Other municipalities have said that healthcare is a provincial issue and not theirs. Scott and I believe this council, believe that if people are struggling, that is where our issue is. Soon, almost a third of our residents will be without a family doctor, which means chronic conditions are not managed, new issues, including cancer, can go unnoticed. Emergency room is overburdened. But if we can bring 10 family physicians to Huntsville, everyone will have a family doctor.
Thank you, Councillor Stone. Councillor Morrison, would you like to?
I'd love to. I know you get nervous when you look at Councillor Stone and I saying it, and you should, very much should. But I just want to, and won't be too long because I know the Oilers game starts at 8:30 and a bunch of you have expressed to me that you want to get home in time for that game. But I want to really highlight two things. Councillor Stone and I started building this idea. It was great. It got full support from council. We're moving forward, but it really has taken off because of Lauren's help and what Lauren has done. And you're not going to be surprised to say having someone like Lauren involved can keep my brain under control and focused. And it's made this actual process so much better. So I can't thank Lauren enough for all the work she's done. We're working so well together. And then recently, I realized I needed a bit of help with the recruitment of incentives. And I got Kate Austin, who is here. I've asked her to come tonight just to be recognized. We're having a lot of fun. Kate's history with the Chamber of Commerce and even NOSM has been very beneficial to me. And we're still waiting for a no, right? We haven't had a no yet, which is amazing. And we're hitting the streets again tomorrow. We're focusing on little areas each day. And I'll tell you that the most amazing thing about going out there is, first of all, realizing how much the business owners appreciate what we're doing here. And then it's also sobering because almost every one of them, either they themselves or someone in their family or some of their staff do not have doctors. And they're concerned about their mental health and their at-risk chronic conditions and things like that. So it really is reinforcing why we're doing this, and it's making me so excited. The reaction from the business community has been way stronger than I could have imagined. I'm going to mention just a few names, but we'll do a more thorough mention down the road. But just so you get an idea of where we're at. And if the names aren't mentioned here, it's because maybe I didn't want to have too many, or we haven't seen them yet because nobody said no. Organizations like Wilson's, the paint store, wants to get involved. You know, they're putting a package together for us. The Grapevine is doing a wellness package for every single doctor. We have automotive companies like Drive Muskoka and Ward Edmonds GM putting significant automobile incentives together for us. We have the real estate community stepping up. We have Club Link giving a golf membership. We have restaurants like the Little Place at the Lights, Three Guys, Tall Trees, and basically the rest will probably step up. We just haven't seen them yet. We have legal services, accounting services. We have Soapstones, Downtown Espresso, Larry Greenwood, Claude Doughty, Chris House. And also we're even looking at ideas like accommodations and how we can help. There's business people that are saying, how can we help get maybe a unit and occupy that unit so we can rent it out to people coming to town for locums and whatnot. So every time we meet with someone, different ideas come up. And it's going to be substantial. We're at right now financially an additional $11,000 committed from the local business community per doctor to add on to the incentive that we're already giving. So our goal with this was to be extremely competitive when people are deciding where they want to practice family medicine. We know that less and less people are choosing family medicine. So we have more people competing and less people practicing. And that is not a good situation to have. I'm excited. I think when we're done all this, it's going to be amazing. Lauren did have a great idea that of how we can also do some retention efforts and how we can reward those that are already working in our community, which we'll address at another time. So With that interest, that's where I want to leave it at for now. We are going to have more to report on the business incentive side down the road. And the one thing I wanted to potentially amend in the motion, I'll just bring it forward. We'll bring it up on the screen potentially. And I'm okay. The more I think about this, number doesn't have to be as big as it is. But what I was hoping for is that we could have our Economic Development Officer, Lauren McDermott, have delegated authority to spend up to $2,500 per doctor on those incentives that can't be donated. And what I'm talking about here is like Arrowhead Park is one of the biggest jewels in our community. I walk my dogs there, I hike there, we cross-country ski there, we skate there. They're provincial organizations, they might not be able to donate a pass, but we're not just looking at financial, we're looking at experiences in our town. And one of the biggest experiences in our town is if a doctor comes to Huntsville and has their kids going to Arrowhead Park, you know, things like that. So I'd like Lauren to have the authority to spend a bit of money outside that already granted money just to build the package to where it needs to be in the end. But it doesn't necessarily have to be $2,500. We might even not use it, but I don't want her to have to come back to council. So that's the gist of it. If there's any questions, let us know.
And I know that we have an amendment prepared for that. Certainly, I'll go to council for sure. I just wanted to make a quick comment and welcome Kate for being here and for doing what you're doing. It's true. I can't go anywhere without running into people in town, whether it's professionals or business owners. I was at an event with Catherine Cole, and everybody, 100%, thinks this is a fantastic idea. They are so thrilled, and it's from all different types of parts of our community. So thank you for spearheading it, and thank you to all of council for all of their support. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. Well said. Congratulations, gentlemen. Lauren, Kate, thanks for coming out. I think it's amazing too that this is taking place. I just had a question about the 60,000 to take over an existing practice, 80,000 to create a practice. Would you not be taking over the existing practices of retiring doctors before you want them to set up new practices? I'm just curious. Like, I support it 100%. I'm just wondering that question because we have, our wait list is huge now, and as doctors retire, it's only growing. So just curious.
Lauren.
Through you, Mayor Alcock. So in our discussions with the various physicians at the Algonquin Family Healthcare team who were really generous in consulting with us and giving their much divided time and attention to this, they did mention that it is easier, not easier, but somewhat easier to recruit and take over an existing practice than it is to set up a brand new practice. Therefore, that's why there was efforts considered to put additional funds towards encouraging people to create a new practice. And that is something of concern because there are a lot on the wait list.
Councillor Schumacher.
Side note comment, actually, I love the report, totally in support. I know as a Rotary member, the 3 Rotary clubs put it together an incentive package, and theirs was more in the vein of a scholarship for a young student who is from this community who's going on to the healthcare field. The sad part is, to my knowledge, as of last week, we'd only had 2 people put their name forward. So to your point, Councillor Morrison, there's not as many people going into the doctor and the nurse field, which is kind of sad to see. But yes, our 3 Rotary clubs put some money together, and we'd like to create the newer generation to see if we can get incentive going forwards.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's unfortunate though, to your point, Councillor Schumacher, not very many people. All right, I do have the amendment. And now it's appropriate for me to read the amendment. So it's going on the screen. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that the following 2 paragraphs be added after the 5th paragraph, and further that $2,500 per doctor up to 10 doctors, total $25,000, to fund additional community incentives as required, be approved to be spent in addition to the $10,000 already budgeted in the healthcare attraction promotion budget for 2024 to be funded from the MAT, and further that the healthcare attraction incentive spending for the draft 2025 and 2026 budget be increased from $10,000 to $35,000. And this is, of course, in reference to your proposal, Scott, Councillor Morrison, that for others, and I thought that was an interesting point that you raised about Arrowhead, because for sure that is a gem, and that would be exactly the kind of thing. And of course, it's a provincial agency, so it wouldn't be able to offer up. Yeah, so that was a really interesting side note. Thank you for that. Are there questions with respect to that? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Not so much a question with respect to that. Like, I'm just curious, how's our MAT tax account doing?
That's a very good, that's a great question. We just assume it's a bottomless pit, right? It's sort of. Director McKenzie.
So based on our budgeted revenues and our expected expenses that we've put through so far, and just expecting if we were to have, say, 4 at 60,000 and 6 at 80,000, we'd be looking at ending balance at the end of 24 of about 450,000.
Say that balance again? We'd have
450,000.
Oh, still after.
But that is based on what we're expecting in revenues, which we
Yes.
haven't yet.
We haven't.
Yeah.
But, okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think what Councillor Morrison had hinted at, that maybe we don't need $2,500 per, so maybe we can bring that down slightly. I mean, maybe we're just nickel and diming, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't know if we need $2,500 per.
All right,
So I would make an
and that's
amendment
fair. Councillor Morrison, are we going to get into it?
Yeah, and to be truthful, honestly, if we could have that at $1,000, I'd be totally okay with that.
Okay.
And it wanted that completely at Lauren's discretion. We may not used to have a dime, we may not need to use a dime of it. But yeah, I think I'd be okay with that.
Yep. Okay, that's great. Certainly, I would support that, the decrease it to 1,000. And again, I'm sure if there was some emergency or whatever, we can always come back. That's always my view, that we can come back. So we're amending the amendment to, and it's already done. It's already done. So any comments with respect to the amended amendment? I need a seconder for that amendment. Councillor Stone. Okay, so will it go back up on the screen? And the only change to the recently read amendment is the change from 2,500 to 1,000, which is in red, and which means the total has changed to 10,000 instead of 25,000. Okay? And the bottom changed as well. And further that, you hadn't changed it yet. That's why I didn't read it, because you didn't yet. It changes to 20,000 from 35,000. All right? All right, I'm going to call the question on this amended amendment. All those in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. So I will call the question on the main motion as amended. Councillor Morrison?
The one thing I forgot to mention is that Kate Austin is volunteering her time. There is no staff time or expense to Kate's time. I buy her coffee and that's about it. Just, so it's a volunteer position in case anyone's wondering if we added staff. That's it.
Much appreciated. But as we know, Kate loves to do the volunteer activity. No, and I do appreciate that. That's thank you. And you just wanted to put that on the table. Okay, no, and we are very grateful. We are very grateful, especially that you have to spend all of that time with Councillor Morrison. But, and Sandra's grateful too. So, all right, may I move to the last question, which was to call the question. All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Lauren, thank you for everything you've done. That's a lot of work. Okay, all right. All right, so we are moving to the next item, which is 10.4. And Mr. Parker, you're joining us with respect to report number Corp-2024-26, Information Technology Required Architectural Changes. I do have a motion. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald, whereas the town experienced a cyber incident on March 10th, 2024, and whereas some architectural changes are needing to change earlier than scheduled in order to change applications to support our systems moving forward. Now therefore, be it resolved that staff be approved to proceed with the additional spend of $49,592 as outlined in Report Corp-2024-24 to be funded through the Corporate Information Reserve. Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. I was politely requested by people at the table to keep my report short. So therefore, if you wanted to jump right into questions, I'd be willing to help out.
All right, look at that. That's great. Are there any questions with respect to this report? You should have heard me talking to Kojiko earlier about this report. I wish you had been there, but that's okay. No questions. I'm not seeing any, not one. It's a great report. Therefore, I've read the motion. I did read the motion. I will call the question. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. That almost carried unanimously. I'm not asking if there are any. We are moving to 10.5, and we are joined by Ms. Maxwell with respect to report number development 2024-53, heritage follow-up. So I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Whereas Council recognizes the recent changes to the Ontario Heritage Act that has a deadline of January 1st, 2025 for Council to issue a notice of intention to designate a property on the town's register of properties of cultural heritage value, the registry. And whereas Council recognizes the house's dedication and many volunteer hours in documenting the town's historical property heritage, and now therefore be it resolved that Council wishes to delegate to Haas the task of reviewing the listed properties on the registry to provide recommendations on designations to Council and direct staff to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Haas to, or I should say HAAHS, to set out the terms and conditions to include but not limited to the following. 1, with a mandate to review the existing registry. 2, to review the identification of the value of each property in the registry based on OREG 906. 3, to provide recommendations on the designation of each property to Council. 4, to include a member of 2022 to 2026 Council to act as a liaison. 5, free admission to Muskoka Heritage Place to end on November 14th, 2026. 6, to provide a best practices review of potential municipal incentives. 7, to provide MHP archival images at no cost. 8, to collaborate on historical projects. 9, to include an end date of 2022 to 2026 term of council. And further that Councillor Helena Renwick be designated to sit as a member on HAAHO blank. I was supposed to say blank. Further, that Councillor blank be designated to sit as a member on the HAAHS to act as liaison. Oh my God. And further, that amendment to appointing bylaw 2022-142 be prepared to reflect the designation. Further, that the Director of Development Services and Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to sign the memorandum of understanding. There is an amendment to this, which I'm going to read right now. Okay. Yes. Yes. Director Maxwell, would you like to review the report first, please?
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. As Council will remember, in April, we had a discussion about the potential for establishing a municipal heritage committee and all the ramifications of that. And through discussions with the Historical Society and Community Services, we've come up with a plan to hopefully be able to address all of those properties on the list and using our Historical Society knowledge and expertise to address the designation, potential designation of these properties. There was some good news released today by the province that they are looking to update it. I don't even know if the bill has a name yet. I think it's the Homeowner Protection Act. that was just discussed today in the House, and they're proposing to extend the list, the registry list, so that it doesn't expire until 2027. So that would be wonderful if that goes ahead. It's open for commenting till the end of June, but I anticipate there won't be many comments and they will just move ahead and do that. So a little bit of the pressure is off on the deadline from that perspective, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you very much for that report, and that's exciting news about the proposed extension. That's great, because we just signed a motion asking them. Must have been our motion. I think it probably was our motion that did it. May I read the amendment now? Okay, I have an amendment. It's been moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that the following name be added in paragraph 4, Helena Renwick, to the motion that I just read. Okay? All right. So are there any comments with respect to this amendment of adding Councillor Renwick's name? I don't see any comments. So I'm going to call the vote on this proposed amendment. All those in favor? And that carries, including Councillor Renwick. She's also voting in favor. That's really great. And so I'm going to call the main motion as amended. Are there any questions or comments with respect to this? All those in favor? And that carries unanimously. I just want to thank the two ladies who have joined us tonight for doing all of this incredible amount of work on our behalf and with us. We are incredibly appreciative. Thank you. I think exciting things ahead on that. Okay, and I did that. Wasn't supposed to. Okay. All right. Moving right along to bylaws and agreements for passage. Whoa. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2024-20 or 44 to 2024-57 inclusive be reported and passed this 27th day of May 2024 from 11.1 through to 11.14. I don't have to read all of them now. I don't. That's so great. All right. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that carries. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. All right. I have a motion moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-58 parking control bylaw as amended be reported and passed this 27th day of May 2024. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, we are now under new business, and with respect to the one deputation that we didn't deal with earlier, and that was 12.1, the windmill request for the refreshment vehicles at Hutchison Beach and Port Sydney Beach. So I'm going to Councillor Fitzgerald first.
Thank you, Worship. We have some history here, and I think the only time we entered an agreement at Hutchison Beach was a not-for-profit that was helping out the kids. And I could be wrong with that one, but and we had an ice cream truck that was doing double duty back and forth at all the beaches and around town. It didn't work out very well, I don't think, and they kind of disappeared. I fully support capitalism as our community, and I love food trucks. Love them. We've never supported them for profit on public property, town-owned property. And I like the policy. Keeps our parks free. It doesn't offer parents, the dealing with their children wanting whatever's available on that truck that maybe not is in their food group or in their budget group. I just think that if that kind of thing is going to happen, it should happen under a lease agreement or a private property owner, and capitalism's at its best. I think in Port Sydney instance, supporting my community in having year-round convenience there is the right thing to do for the members of my community, and I will continue to support that. As far as Hutchison Beach goes, there are no offerings there. It makes sense for us to have something there. And it's an opportunity for a business to provide that service. And I think there should be a lease agreement made with the town, as well as the food truck licensing. So that's my 2 cents.
Appreciate that. And Councillor Stone, I'm going to you because you did raise issues earlier, and then I think followed by Councillor Cluche, then Councillor Renwick. Okay.
So thank you. Regarding my comments earlier, I do believe that it is extremely important to protect our year-round businesses. And I respect Councillor Fitzgerald's position on not threatening those by having someone swoop in and take some of the gravy money that helps you get through that very long winter. So I support not having a food truck on public property in Port Sydney. As was pointed out, Hutchison Beach has nothing nearby, would be a great opportunity. And I love Windmill Bakery. I was hoping she would bring some bread or something. Anyways, nonetheless, so I do support them being on public property in Hutchison Beach, but not in Port Sydney.
Okay, thank you. And I think I went to Councillor Renwick, or did I? Okay, Councillor Cluche, then Councillor Renwick, then Councillor Clark.
Thank you. I think, yes, Port Sydney, definitely nothing there. The stores are there. But even at Hutchison Beach, I think we're opening ourselves up to, if we say, okay, we can put a lease agreement there. First of all, if we're going to put a lease agreement, we got to open it up to everybody, not just a certain individual gets a chance to have a lease agreement there, I would think. But the big thing here is if we open this up, then every piece of land that we have, somebody can come to us and ask for it. Right now, the way it's shut off, it covers us and it covers the town, not being able to have vehicles on our property like that. And I don't know, 100 years ago when I went to the beach, we brought our own food, but that's all.
I appreciate those comments, but before I go to you, Councillor Renwick, I'm going to ask Director Maxwell to speak to our current policy and if we've actually had pilot projects before. And I think, Director Maxwell, would you mind jumping in? Do you want to come to the table, or you could, wherever you'd like to be?
Now, you'll have to forgive me because I'm not the expert in the business licensing. However, I think that in 2015 or 16, there was a pilot project, and it was an expression of interest that was put out to anybody that wanted to use town property. And at the time, I believe it was Avery Beach was one of the locations, and Hutchison Beach. Port Sydney wasn't included in that. And it was a company did win the ability to use the space, but since then, we've had an ice cream vehicle that council granted permission to, and then it didn't work out very well, and so that license was revoked. So at this time, there's no authority in the refreshment or the business licensing bylaw to approve a refreshment vehicle on town property. So that's why they're here.
So do you think it would warrant us looking at that to sort of, if we continue to have this sort of request, so we sort of not?
Absolutely. Our bylaw enforcement team have already identified that there are some things we need to address with the business licensing bylaws. So they're planning on bringing an update and a review in the fall. So if council wanted to look at exploring the use of refreshment vehicles on town property, that's something that could be addressed at that time as well.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just to add on to what Director Kirsten, or Maxwell, sorry, has just said, we did have in Rivermill Park, we had the little kiosk, the ice cream kiosk from Nutty Chocolatier. We also had on town property in Kent Park, we had another a belly ice cream stand in the park. We've had a hot dog stand on Main Street that sort of teetered on sort of town property as well as the church property. And that vehicle actually moved into Rivermill Park for other events as well. So the fact that we do it on a one-off basis, but we have allowed people to use town property. There's also, at one time, I believe, at Hutchison Beach, there was a sailing camp that was there, and they operated a little, it was like a little window shack that they sold sundries from there or something. So, yeah, my opinion is that I think we deal with it on a one-off basis, and if this is a great company and Hutchison Beach has nothing there, and they have come to us to ask if they could do it. At this point, to your point about whether or not, Councillor Cloutier, if it opens the door, it opens the door. We deal with it, I think, on a one-by-one basis. But I think at this point, she has come to us and has asked. I would have to disagree with Councillor Fitzgerald about Port Sydney. I think I'd agree with Councillor Stone that, no, you agree with him, don't you? So I want to agree. You changed, I think, I know, yeah. No, I would not, I think competition is good. I think it's healthy, and it gives them an option, gives people an option. And I'm sensitive to the fact that, being in the BIA as well, that, you don't want to have, competition is good, and it does give people an option. So I would not be against having something in Port Sydney or Hutchison. So.
May I ask, would you consider putting a motion on the floor? If there was a draft motion, and then we could discuss that motion? Or would you like to hold off?
Yes, I would put a motion on the floor. Because we were discussing without having a motion on the floor.
I may have jumped the gun. I don't know. I'm always tonight. So we do have a draft. And so part of me thinks, why not put the draft motion on the floor, and then we can discuss the draft motion, okay? I think that would be good, but I needed someone to move it. So, and do I have a seconder to put a motion? Yes. Councillor Stone is happy to support you in putting the motion on the floor. I know, well, but that's all you're doing is putting it on the table. That's all. Yes, Councillor Fitzgerald, there were other people ahead of you, but we have to put them, okay.
Go.
Yes.
If you want to go to someone else, go ahead.
I think Councillor Clark was ahead of you. That's why. Sorry.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. So really interesting conversation about this today, for sure. I think one of the important things to remember with this particular situation is that it's not a permanent, it's not something that stays. It comes and goes, which is quite a bit different than a lot of the other things we see in other areas. They come for the day and they leave at the end of the day. So it's not a permanent situation, which I think is kind of a unique situation. I can't really think of anything else like that that's really happening right now anywhere in Huntsville, to my knowledge. So I like the idea at Hutchison Beach for sure. Port Sydney, I totally respect the comments made by the Port Sydney councillors. I understand that. I can live with that. But I think it would be good to try it at Hutchison Beach. I do think we need to look at developing a policy in the long term to address it, because if we do it with this, I'm sure there'll be others that want to do it. But I don't have a problem with trying it on an interim basis for the summer while we work on a policy for the fall.
It sounds like you've been reading something in advance. That sounds like. All right, may I go to this proposed before I go to you, or would you like? Might as well, right? Might as well. And then we can certainly comment on what's in it and do some deletions. It's not coming up. The clerk refuses to. I don't know why. She rolls sometimes. Whoa, there we go. Okay, I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Stone. Whereas on May 27th, 2024, Council received a deputation from Windmill Bakery seeking a business license for a refreshment vehicle on town-owned lands known as Port Sydney Beach and Hutchison Beach for 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that Council permits the operation of a refreshment vehicle located on town lands known as Port Sydney Beach and Hutchison Beach during the hours of 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays for the period of June 1st, 2024 until September 2nd, 2024. And further that staff be directed to complete a fulsome review of the business licensing bylaw, including operations on town lands, and report back to General Committee on recommended amendments prior to summer 2025. So that is a draft. And so now I go to Councillor Fitzgerald, followed by Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you.
Councillor Morrison after that.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I think there'd be 800 nice families in one old grouch that would be very unhappy to see that Port Sydney was included in that. It's a boat launch. Parking is a nightmare there already. Where does a food truck set up with a boat launch? There's no separate area to put that type of equipment on. There's a septic in Creekside, so there's no safe location for it. First of all my other arguments aside, it would create a serious safety hazard.
So would you like to propose an amendment to
I
this?
would like to remove Port Sydney.
So that's your proposed amendment. And seconded by Councillor Schumacher, just like that. And so I will read, I guess the proposed amendment is just deleting, I just have to know the right, deleting known as Port Sydney Beach. That part she did make, she asked for that, so we keep that in. We keep that one in, and then we take out the okay? So, and so Hutchison Beach only. But we do keep it in as Port Sydney because she did ask for Port Sydney. Right? That's what you see what I'm saying? She did ask, but we're taking out Port Sydney in the, okay? All right, so I've just read what, everybody gets whatever I read about the Port Sydney. That is now, so comments or questions with respect to the proposed amendment? Yes, Deputy Mayor Armour.
I think it's interesting putting on food trucks on town property. So I can't really say I really support it, but I understand around the table, I think there's a lot of support for that. So with that being said, I'm just wondering, they asked for 2 beaches. Should we give trial for 2 beaches and include Avery Beach on there as an option? So I know that the West Side Fish and Chips is on the market now to be sold. So there'd be no food down in that area either. So just a thought.
So, given she requested 2 specific locations, we didn't ask tonight if she's interested in another option, and maybe that we should have. I don't know. Would be there. I'm looking at you, Director Maxwell. I need help.
I don't believe there was any discussion about any other locations.
Is that something that council? Okay, I can't remember. I guess I'm going to you, Councillor Schumacher, because you, yeah.
Well, the one point was when we kind of discussed Port Sydney with her, she didn't suggest she would look to something else at that time. But I mean, if you want to follow up, I guess you could. But
we could put it in. That is all right. Let's propose it because Deputy Mayor Armour suggested we might replace Port Sydney with Avery. How does that fly? Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I fully support Deputy Mayor Armour's idea there. What I like about Hutchison Beach and I don't like about Port Sydney is Hutchison Beach is filling a gap. We had friends up from Ohio a couple summers ago. We're at Hutchison Beach, and I remember them saying, "Can we get something to eat?" There was nothing there, so they ordered skip the dishes for some fast food. Wasn't great, right? So I think having something there, coffee, beverages, ice cream, whatever, from something healthier is great. And we'd be serving the community, tourism especially. So I think it's great. Avery Beach, I would maybe leave it to Director Maxwell's discretion to offer that. And if we give permission here in the motion, she could then work that out if they choose to, right? So yeah, and I agree with Port Sydney. I would like to keep that one off the table if we could.
Thank you for that. I actually support all of that. The councillors from Port Sydney have made a very strong argument. I wouldn't disagree with them around that at all. I do think we're filling a gap out at Hutchison Beach, and I think that's great. And it's basically this motion is talking about this summer to pilot. And and I think if we now have Avery in there, I think our clerk is typing that away. I think I'm going to Councillor Cluche before I'm going back to you, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Sorry, big guy. Still, does it still not follow back on our procurement process when we're dealing, leasing out, or giving somebody permission to do business on town property?
I will defer. I mean, we have had a specific request. I know we have in the past as well, and we've responded to that specific request. We've also gone out with an REOI, I think, before, haven't we? Yeah. So how is it, to Councillor Cluche's, we can just go around that this time? Good question.
Thank you, Your Worship. That would be at council's discretion, obviously. However, that would also play into how staff would bring back a report. If this was going to be an ongoing event or something that's being requested of different town properties, we would have to have a policy in place.
Okay, I think I'm going back to Deputy Mayor. Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Armour.
I still really don't have much of an appetite for us to be on town property. But
Have you?
I will support the rest of the council table because I think that in the past, everyone who's tried this has failed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think she's really going out on a limb on this one.
I think so too. Councillor Schumacher, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. I'm okay with, yeah, again, looking at it from a pilot project and this year only is what we've said in there. For that, then I would go to Councillor Cluche's point that if they're going to come back again for next summer, it would be a procurement, anybody, free for all, whatever you want to call it, would be able to put their name forward if we do continue.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that's the intent of bringing back the full policy in preparation for next year. It would be exactly that. So I concur with what you're saying. Councillor Clark, followed by Councillor Renwick.
Thanks, Mayor Alcock. So my thoughts on it are, I'm struggling a little bit with it, like Deputy Mayor Armour's, but I would rather see it stick to one location, and that being Hutchison Beach. That would be my preference if I had the ability to choose. I don't like Avery Beach because Westside Fish and Chips is very much still in operation, and that's very close proximity to Avery Beach, and I wouldn't want to jeopardize their business. Hutchison Beach is perfect for a pilot. There's nobody close. There's nothing there. There's nothing to lose, and I wish them all the best for success. If they have success, great. If it doesn't work out, then we can revisit it in the fall.
Thank you for that comment, and I think your point about the Westside Fish and Chips is very well taken. I know it's for sale, but it is still alive and well. So that's an excellent point. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I do concur with Councillor Clark on that point, just sticking to Hutchison Beach. But my other concern is that she has only asked for Fridays and Saturdays. So if we allow her to do that, how does it not open the door to someone coming and saying, we want to do Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday? So
They
would we deal
certainly
with that
could.
on a
They
could?
certainly could if
So
somebody.
if this gets into the news, somebody could come and say, I would like to be there, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
They could, you know what, our CAO would like to provide a comment. Maybe this will just bring closure to the whole thing.
Thank you, Worship. So I can absolutely appreciate Council's desire to make it an open, fair process. We have tried this multiple times before, and sadly, with not a lot of success. We've done it both through a procurement, and we've done it where people have come and asked. We're at the end of May. Summer is just around the corner. If we were to go out for a procurement process, it would delay it 2 more months. So Director Maxwell has indicated that we will be bringing something forward to look long-term moving forward. So I think if there is a general desire for council to have some form, wherever the location is you choose, I think it's fair that we proceed as opposed to embarking on a really very lengthy process, because we have been approached and no one else has approached us to this point.
Thank you for those comments. That was a very nice summary as to, and response. Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you have your mic is on?
Well, I was ready to speak again, but I'll turn it off.
Okay. So I think at this point, what we have on the table is just the reference to Hutchison Beach, right? And I don't think we're going to proceed with this one that you've got up there.
Right. If we could ask if the mover and seconder, which is Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Schumacher, if they want to withdraw the motion to add Avery Beach, that would be number one. Okay,
All right.
then Mayor Alcock, we're back to just adding,
We're just
removing Port Sydney
removing
Beach.
Port Sydney Beach. At this point, we're only referring to Hutchison Beach. Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald, there's no reference to Port Sydney Beach in the proposal.
Your worship, if I may, no, I thought we were being asked to be removed as first and seconders on the Avery Beach, is what you said.
Yes, because apparently
I don't
somehow
remember,
that was.
I don't remember offering
It's
that.
No,
as a first or a
funny, I
seconder.
don't,
Deputy
I
Mayor
don't either.
offered it in our
But our
stead.
clerk works in mysterious ways, and she had it all recorded. So that happens when we say things. So that's no longer, even the glimmer of an idea of Avery is no longer even there. So we are voting on the proposed amendment, which is removing Port Sydney Beach from the motion, the original motion. Okay? Do we need to put it on the screen, or everybody's comfortable? And I don't see any more comments around the table, so I will call the question. All those in favor of the proposed amendment? And all those opposed? All right. It carries. All those in favor of the main motion as amended? All those opposed? 2, 3, a second time. And that carries. Thank you all for a very good discussion. I think that the deputant will be happy with that, actually. Okay, so we are moving right along to general information. We had a long list of council correspondence, and I would like to go to the back page because they're under 13.2. Hopefully this will embarrass our CAO just a little bit. I just wanted to read a little note to clerk and council. At its recent spring workshop in Niagara-on-the-Lake, I had the distinct pleasure of being able to present Denise Corey with an OMA, which is Ontario Municipal Administrators Association, Long Service Recognition Award. This award recognizes Denise's 10 years of service and is an acknowledgement of her hard work and dedication to the proud profession of an Ontario CAO. The OMA Long Service Awards are unique because the criteria are very specific and require service in the position of the CAO or the many other titles for head administrator of a municipality. I have had the pleasure of working with Denise on the board for several years and have always been impressed with her positive energy, thoughtfulness, and dedication to good governance. We are so pleased, and this is the part, to have Denise join our executive as our second vice president, as confirmed at the recent AGM. Sincerely, Peter Neufeld, OMA past president. Congratulations, Denise. It's a pretty exciting thing, and actually around the CAO table in our district, I believe our CAO has the most seniority. Kind of interesting. It's odd, eh? Yes, I know. But I did want to say that publicly because I think that's brilliant, and I'm very proud. I think that's great. So now I'm moving to District of Muskoka. I turned my page a little too quickly. District of Muskoka updates. So I guess I'll start with Councillor Stone. I usually have directives. You leaving it open to me.
So I'll keep it very short. We had a deputation by Save South Muskoka Hospital, and there were some interesting questions and answers. We had an update on staffing for both our long-term care facilities and the use of staffing agencies. Good news is most of the full-time positions have now been filled. So that is drastically reducing our use of staffing agencies. And we had a closed session on more tenders for Fairburn. And we had a joint meeting with Community and Planning Services, and I'll let the mayor speak to that good news.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions? No. You can do the joint session if you'd like. That was a good one. Yep. Go ahead.
So at the joint session of Health Services and Community and Planning Services, we approved the addition of a daycare center in the new Fairburn build. And there's going to be 64 spaces. And that's great news for attracting people to work in Fairburn or anywhere within the vicinity. And it's a great news story.
Thank you for that. It was indeed, I have to say, the staff and most of the councillors around that table were unbelievably excited by this. They also said that Huntsville is in a bit of a crisis as far as childcare spaces. So this not only will go a long way, but it will be in place as soon as Fairburn opens in 2025. So it's really, really exciting. And it was great having the support, for the most part, around the district table from all of our councillor colleagues. So that was pretty cool. All right, thank you for that. I'll go to you, Councillor Morrison, next.
Ours was a very short meeting, and most of the substance was done in closed session. And the big presentation was about the Muskoka Regional Workforce Development Strategy and Implementation Plan. But we have Lauren McDermott bringing a report on that on Wednesday to General. So I'll save it. She has a lot more information on that, and it's exciting and amazing, but she'll explain that to us on Wednesday.
Yes, that's right, the workforce strategy. Are there questions? No. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Worship. I'll keep it short too. We had electronic meetings, so the big things that really affected us that we entered into a memorandum of understanding for the town for Cora Street reconstruction. So if you drive up that way, you'll notice it's already started. We did an environmental monitoring and remediation project, and then there was an interesting thing about they call it road rationalization study. So where they approved spending $75,000 to look at the current district roads within the municipalities throughout of Muskoka and seeing which roads that could possibly give back to the municipalities and which ones they'd keep. There really wasn't a whole lot of appetite around the table about taking any roads back. The other municipalities are happy with what's going on right now. But just as a number for Huntsville, for example, we currently have 412 kilometers, and they're looking at 47 coming back to us, so that would bring us up to 459. But as I say, they're still working on the study. So, and that was pretty much it.
Thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Stone.
So just a question about taking back roads. Was there discussion about whether there'd be compensation coming back? If we're going to take over some roads, do we get financial compensation for that?
So through the conversation, they were talking about bringing roads back up to municipal standards again. So when you get it back, it's going to be new and ready to go. So, but I think they're looking more towards doing individual municipalities now and talking to them directly. For example, something for us is Etwell Road, because we drive out Etwell Road now to plow the roads on the far end when they plow up and plow back. So trying to do something that's more conducive that way. But yeah, the roads would be brought up to municipal standard before we take them back. And one of the roads that really concerned me was Britannia roads, because, you know,
right.
So, but, yeah.
But more discussion on that, obviously. Good, okay. Council, you know, it's funny, I was looking at the agenda and there really wasn't a lot, and yet we met in person. We had a full presentation from Watson, an associate economist, to talk about the development charges background study and update. That's always interesting, and bring new topics into the bailiwick of what we can put our development charge budget towards, like health services, things like that, that we'd like to be able to do. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot at council. But CAPS, I just want to say, I won't go into the items that weren't directly related to us. There was a presentation from our GeoHub group. And whenever Graham Good, the manager there, does a presentation of Muskoka GeoHub, it's unbelievably awesome. If you haven't been, you need to go. But one of the things that I thought was really important, and I meant to follow up with our own Director of Development Services, is they now can look at land use planning across the entire district and do it in 3D. They now have a new tool where they can do visual impact studies, yes, of proposed developments as to if it's a 5-story, you can look at it and get a sense of what it would look like in the neighborhood. It is awesome. And half of us, apparently 2 municipalities have already said, how do we access it? How do we learn how to use the tool? Because, and we're not one of those 2 yet, but we're going to be the 3rd, because they were well aware of what we're doing with our height study. And this would be incredibly important. It might be the kind of thing we will put in our planning applications, run it through the tool so that we would see it, right? So, so exciting. It was very cool. There was an update from planning on other things, all of the things they've been doing as far as streamlining of planning functions. An example of that was the capacity allocation policy that came forward a while back. But they're also looking at closure of inactive subdivision and condominium files. So they've started reaching out to some of the owners in all of the municipalities who have had inactive files for, over 20 years and said, guess what? Time's up. And so far, they haven't had a lot of reaction yet from some of those applicants. But why that's important for Huntsville is we happen to have a lot of those plans of subdivision that are really dated. So my guess is we might hear from some owners at some point. Other than that, I think we did have an in-camera item with respect to ongoing work with the proposed housing development in Bracebridge, and we came out of in camera and with the direction to proceed with the proposed approach. So that's my update. All right. Okay, so with that, events and updates, May 26th to June 1st, National Accessibility Week, and tomorrow we have the flag raising at 12:30, I think, and I think Councillor Schumacher, you'll be there. All right, and May 29th is Red Shirt Day of Action for Accessibility and Inclusion. June 6th in the Summit Center is the Kids Bike Rodeo. If you haven't been, it's really a lot of fun. And we usually, anyway, it's a lot of fun. If you have a chance, it would be good to go out. June 13th, I will remind everybody, is the mayor's bike ride, not rodeo. It could be a rodeo, but that'd be interesting. Wouldn't that be neat? We could institute a rodeo. I will say one more time, just a plug. We were hoping to raise enough funds to buy 5 bikes. And so far we've raised enough, I think, for 3. So I'm just putting out a plug. If you know of anybody who would like to make a contribution, we'd certainly appreciate it, because there are always kids in need, and I think bike riding is one of the biggest joys when you're growing up. So I just put that out there around the table, but also for anybody who might be listening at this point. And June 21st is National Indigenous Peoples Day. So we, of course, are working with Hope Arises and others to create a really good event in Rivermill Park, and I believe that's from 4 to 6. Councillor Schumacher, did you want to speak to that?
Well, correct. Yes, it's from 4 to 6. No, 7, 8. 8, I believe, actually. Amanda Rium is going to be singing in Rivermill Park. They have her coming in, which I know she is also one of the headliners at Mariposa this year as well.
Wow,
So,
that's great.
I think the Friday night headliner, so she would be quite
Amazing.
impressive to see, I believe, on June 21st. So yeah, I think it runs till 8, from 4 to 8 is usually.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. July 1st, we obviously have Canada Day community celebrations, and that is, if everybody can, it's a command performance. It usually is, and it's usually a lot of fun for all of us. And then, and that will be at Muskoka Heritage Village again. And oh, I'm supposed to announce that the Muskoka Heritage Village and Museum and Train are now open for the summer season. That's really cool. Finally, this is something, just a quick note. Terry Smith has been winding our town clock. He lives in Port Sydney, but this blows my mind. This is his 50th anniversary of winding our town clock. So clearly he's been taking care of our clock every week since 1974. He doesn't look older than, what, 50? I don't know. Was he 10 when he started? But it's a bit of a mind blower. But congratulations to Terry and to us for having him in our community. I just wanted to announce that. That's pretty brilliant. So with that, does anybody else have anything they'd like to announce for a community event? Yes, Councillor Morrison.
I'll just be brief, describe a pretty remarkable in good and bad ways on Saturday. I was hanging out with our former mayor, Scott Aitchison, and we visited 4 events with very different themes in the same 5-hour period. And we said goodbye to 2 amazing people, Chris Thompson and Graham Pollington. And Chris Thompson was a remarkable woman, fiery, was known as Fiery. And that's in the eulogies, that was the resounding theme, founding partner of Coldwell Banker. And then we said goodbye to Graham Pollington, who was gone way too soon. They had an amazing event at Conroy Park. There was 2 full games of soccer going on at the same time, and just a ton of people went to support Graham. And we also went to Det Schumacher's 80th birthday at the Legion, which was another amazing event. So that was more the joyous stuff. And then we ended up in Windermere House for an event raising funds for Food for Kids. Peter Kelly was the MC, and he was hilarious. Somebody offered to buy his jacket for $10,000. It was ugly, very ugly. And I don't know if that happened after we left, but I won't give the number because it's not public yet, but the number they raised would blow your mind. It was very significant. And that organization, as we all know and love, they started with 7 kids, and they're up to 187 kids, and they're looking to get up over 400 kids being fed throughout the district. So it's quite the day, but it started off with some somber stuff and ended up on some pretty positive things. So pretty cool.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that was an interesting day. I did attend Det Schumacher's 80th birthday, and it was a nice turnout. It was fun seeing him. But on the Food for Kids, I did want to say that I think we've scheduled our council help with filling some bags in June. So I think not everybody is attending that one because some of you are away, but I think half of us are going to be there, and that's mid-June. I was looking at my calendar, but you know who you are. Yeah, 5th. It's not even mid. It's June 5th. We're doing that. So I'm looking forward to that. Any other council? No? Yes, Councillor Schumacher.
Just coming up on the 8th of June is the Saddle Up event for the Curling Club, to go out and support them if you can. It is a fundraiser to help them with their accessibility efforts for their renovation of their curling club to get it up to accessible standards that they're trying to so diligently do. So if anyone has some time on June 8th, go and then do that event. And then you did mention it, but if everybody could wear their red shirt on Wednesday, if you want to remind some people in their calendars, because I know they might need that reminder, just so that it is for Easter Seals. And I just want to read a bit from the Easter Seals thing. It's support for persons living with disabilities and their families. And it's by actively participating in this event that we not only acknowledge the remarkable accomplishment of people living with disabilities, but also to reaffirm our collective commitment to creating a fully accessible and inclusive society. So that is sort of the goal with Red Shirt Day. And if we could all on Wednesday at General wear our red shirts, that would be greatly appreciated.
Appreciated for saying that. That's good. I missed that. And so I did mention the day, but you're right. I didn't say that about General. So good catch, and thank you. We will wear a red shirt. All right, I have to find it.
I seem to be the one always telling everybody what color they need to wear.
I
I'm so
know,
sorry
that's,
for that.
that's fine, and that's a good role to be in. All right, I think I'm going to move to the next motion, which has been moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Stone. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 8:34 p.m. For the purpose of considering the following matter pertaining to the following section under the Municipal Act 2001, Section 2392C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, 14.1.1, Confidential Report Corp. -2024-23 acquisition. All those in favor? And that carries. We are good to go, and we do not have any business arising from closed. So, we do. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that recommendation contained within Confidential Report Corp 2024-23 be adopted. All those in favor? And that carries. I have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2024-59 be received and passed this 27th day of May 2024. All those in favor? And that carries. And then finally, I have a motion moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 8:48 p.m. All those in favor? And that carries. Sorry.